Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding.
The myth held tight, every scholar zip. But one slipped up, caught on clip.
The standard narrative has holes in it.
They told me one Quran, not a single word gone. But the Sunnah manuscripts got me saying hold on. Beneath the script a shadow bleeds, the edict seep. Burned by man's hand, still the smoke runs deep. Perfect preservation, that's the lie they spread. While Zerkati whispers, it's complicated. 10 Kirat, which one did Allah protect? Or did the best of deceivers let the versions intersect?
Narrative has holes in it.
There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book.
Holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes.
Wolfman gathered all the scrolls and sheets, burned the copies, erased competing beats. To unify, he chose one written script, but in that fire, true version slipped. If Allah promised his word would last, why did some pages burn? Why weren't they cast into Wolfman's guard? Kept safe and whole. What truth was lost? What's left untold? And Aisha spoke with no disguise. A sheep once true, the sacred lines. Verses gone, no longer read. Missing words from what's been said. If God's word is perfect, why the missing lines? Why the silent gaps through all the times? If it's truly kept, why the torn afraid? Why do some chapters just fade away? They preach a tale that sounds complete, but history whispers in retreat. If Allah preserved each word with care, why purge the parts they couldn't bear? The cracks run deep, no place to run. The claim of truth comes undone. If verses fade and lines are gone, then who still swears he guards the Quran?
We're live. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, the uncorrupted Injil. That is right, folks. I am what Christians are to judge by. Therefore, whatever I say, therefore you must believe, because that is true. And until Muslims offer a better version of what the uncorrupted Injil is, you just have to go with this. And I have brother Sam Smith with me.
Sam Smith.
Yeah, I kind of read that.
Smith?
I said I was saying like San, like brother San Smith made me think. Gonna try
Fair
to
enough.
I think I butchered it. But anyway, we're live.
Something new.
Yeah. How you doing, San?
Good. I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
I'm back from New York. That was wild.
Yeah, it looked fun, man.
Yeah. You were gonna come next time we do something like that. Yeah. So I was in New York with David Wood, Vocab Malone, God Logic. We were doing some public events, debating with Muslims on the streets. That was fun. Someone named Adam Sala showed up. I had no idea who he was, but he's got like 4 million subs on YouTube. He was streaming and he was trying to argue with us that Jesus is a Muslim because he prayed with his head facing down. And we were just, yeah. So we had to show him. A couple of the clips have gone viral on TikTok, but we had to show him Jesus said, Abba, Father, which would mean he can't be a Muslim because you cannot pray to God and call him Father in Islam. And yeah, of course, his response was, I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm doing, basically. Yeah, that's basically what happened.
At least he's honest and it wasn't like trying to make up some random BS on the spot.
Pretty much, yeah. So we went to a Dawah booth in Jersey. I got some good reading material. You ready for this? I got Islam promotes peace, love, and tolerance. I got, you're gonna love this one. Women's rights in Islam.
Dude, it's funny because somebody sent me a clip of a woman on TikTok saying women have rights in America because of Islam.
Yeah. I got a pocket Quran too, so I can use this now. So it was fun. We showed up to this Dawah table and they were immediately nervous because we had cameras and they were like, we were like, yeah, yo, they were like, whoa, we don't want to debate. And then Avery, God Logic, was like, we just want to ask questions. And they're like, no, we're not taking questions. I was like, oh boy. But Avery sort of like cracked that shell, and we had a good conversation on the Islamic dilemma. Hopefully he'll get that up soon. And then yesterday I was I was debating the Hebrew Israelites, which I can only describe as an intellectual rap battle, because like they would like so they had the Hebrew Israelites on one side and the Christians on the other beside me, and they'd like make a point, and then all the Hebrew Israelites would go, oh, and then I'd respond, and all the Christians behind me would go, oh, and it was like, yeah,
that sounds so fun, man.
Wild,
I just
man.
want the smoke. I want the smoke.
It was wild. Luckily, Life works for God Logic, recorded it, so they're gonna get me that footage this week, and I'm gonna get that up as soon as possible because got a lot of good feedback from that. We were debating, is Jesus the Most High God? I obviously say yes, he is in that ontological sense, and they were saying no. And basically, it went as you would expect. Pretty much not super impressed with their arguments, and got a lot of good feedback after that debate. So all good on there. So yeah, I'll get that up for you soon. But today I got excited because we got a reply from Vice Rhino, the atheist YouTuber. And apparently he's wants to do a series of responses. So I was like, yeah, let's jump on this. I was actually thinking of ignoring it, but he decided he was going to do a little dawah for us, little Islamic apologetics, and try to argue.
Is that what set you off?
It was so funny because we had just addressed that in a recent stream, his argument.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we got to do this. This is hilarious because he's trying to argue that, the evidence for Christianity is so bad. Let me show you by showing you how much better it is for Islam. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he basically just butchers it all. He's like, he doesn't, he should have left that section alone, as you'll see when we get into it. You'll see, because we were just making an offhanded comment. He thought it was directed at him for some odd reason. We weren't. We were just saying, look, if you or anyone thinks there's actual evidence for Islam, you really got to think hard about that. And he comes back with like, oh, no, I don't think Islam is true, but it's even better than it is for Christianity. So how dare you attack Islam? I was, bro, you just gave us material to do a fun and lighthearted stream on. Thank you. So we're gonna
I remember, well, and we'll cover it, but I just remember when he said that the argument that Muhammad is in the Bible is on par with the arguments for prophecy for Jesus, I was just like astounded. I was blown away by that statement. So to be fair to him, I think he was working with one of those like standard, like, here's 300 prophecies Jesus fulfilled handout things. That I think that was his we're gonna get into that because listen, his argument was like, if I said I will show you how dumb atheism is, and then I just did a video on showing how stupid arguments from Jesus mythicism are. Okay, well, I've not taken the cream of the crop here, and that's what we're gonna get from Vice Rhino. So yeah, for
anyone interested, David Wood is supposed to join later. He said he's on a bus back from New York back to where he lives in the South or West or North somewhere. Where does he say he lives? He told me the town. I forget what it is, but I'm not allowed to say anyway. So
I'm not gonna say. I know where he lives.
But anyway, so he's on a bus back there. So he's going to try to join later when he can. So we are going to hold off on the Dawah stuff first. And we're going to get to other parts of Vice Rhino. But before we do that, I do want to say one thing. I expect Vice Rhino will watch this as he watched the last stream. And he said he wants to do more replies. Here's the issue. Vice Rhino has come out and said he was unclear, which I respect. I think that's very noble of him, that he was not trying to destroy theism. He was just supposed to do a video on why he's unconvinced of theism. Two things on that, Than. Two things. Okay, if you're unconvinced, we know you're not convinced. Why are you doing more videos? Like, okay, what are you trying to prove? That you're super unconvinced at this point? We don't care. Like, if you're just trying to explain to theists over and over and over again why you're unconvinced, no one cares. Your original video was phrased as if you were destroying theism. We responded to that in those arguments. If you're just not convinced, why do you care if we're not convinced by your arguments as to why you're not convinced? Just move on with your life. But if you don't want to move on, if you want to keep doing a ton of responses to that stream, fine. How about this instead? You come on this channel. I will send you an email as soon as this stream is over. You can come on and talk to Than and I directly. You could talk to me alone, or you could talk to Than alone. Your pick, sir. You come on, we have a conversation about any of those arguments you addressed instead of this back and forth, because at the end of the day, as we're going to get into, a lot of your arguments are not going to be convincing to anybody who is a theist, because there's a lot of misrepresentations. Anybody who has studied these arguments is going to come away, yeah, I get that you're not convinced, but I'm not convinced you're convinced for good reasons. So maybe instead of just talking past each other, why don't we just have a conversation? The channel is open, sir. Channel is open. Come on, we can set it up as early as next week. Both of us can be here. One of us can be here. You can pick. I'll go. I'll leave the channel. Than can do it. Than can do it. He can handle this.
No, 100%. I mean, we also don't bite. I could just sit here and look really pretty if you want to talk to Mike, or Mike could sit there and look really angry.
I'm good at that. You should see, I perfected it on TikTok.
Seriously, Vice Rhino, I'm just gonna call him VR. Let's talk, man. I mean, that's gonna be the most productive thing.
I'm gonna call him Miami Vice.
Okay. Oh.
All right, no, I won't do that. All right. So anyway, let's get to some super chats. I'm gonna give David Wood an hour. If he's not here by the what is it? It's 8:12 Eastern. If he's not here by 9, I want to jump into the Dawah stuff because he might be busy.
Are we doing sneak peek
Pascal's
today?
wager. What?
Are we doing sneak peek today?
Yo, you gotta set it up. You do not set it up. All right.
I don't know how to do that.
I do everything around here, man. Okay, so let me see if I can. It's not coming up. That's dumb. Okay, so here's what Than wants to do. If you guys can get us 50, we have 14 super chats. If you guys can get up to 50 super chats, or let's see, $500 in super chats, we will sneak peek an upcoming video we have coming out this Friday. It's currently available for all donors right now on debunking adoptionist Christology. So the idea that Jesus was just a human, he came into existence at his birth, and then he was adopted as the Son of God and became divine after his resurrection or so. So we will preview that. You have to get that ready, Than, because I think that's on your system.
Yeah, I can get that ready.
Okay, so 50 super chats or $500 in total super chats, and we will preview that. So let's get to some of these right now as we're doing that. So Hervey says the darkness will always side with the darkness. I think you mean atheists and his Muslims will side. Yeah, that's not true. I disagree because I've sided with atheists on the Islamic dilemma. I've had very few Muslims that want to side with me on dealing with atheism. They're very they're not willing to side with what their Quran calls the worst of creatures, and they're not to make friends with us according to the Quran. So they're not willing to do a lot of that. I saw this question on a Testify stream, but I don't think they got it. How do you respond to Bart Ehrman's assertion that Mark was probably called that to avoid confusion with the Gnostic Gospel of Peter? Yeah, so there was multiple, like, I don't think that's a good argument. For one, the church fathers could have just said that was a heretical version of Peter. Like they didn't have to relabel Mark. They didn't have to relabel this gospel from Peter to Mark to avoid that. That still wouldn't make sense. Just like there was the infancy gospel of Thomas and the gospel of Thomas. We know there could have been more than one gospel attributed to an author like Thomas or Peter or something like that. So I don't think that would have been a problem. And I think they could have just, why didn't they attribute it to like, I don't know, Peter's brother, for example, instead of his interpreter? Like that would be a much more logical argument or much step to do than going to Mark, who is one step removed from Jesus. Why not go to another disciple, like the brother of Peter, for example? What's his name again?
I don't remember.
Simon. Man, I can't believe I forgot the disciple's name. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you, Elijah. Can I get David Wood's email? I promise to translate the Islamic dilemma to Finnish for free. I don't know. You gotta ask him. I can't get his
If he
email.
shows up, we can just bring this back up from.
Listen, I can't just I just can't be like giving out his email on a live stream, man. Like that's not how this works. Message us and we'll talk. Women's Rights in Islam sounds like an interesting fictional book. It is. I got to read that thing. I've not had time to read that pamphlet. I slept like all day on the right back. So that's nuts. I mean, the Quran literally says that women are your wives are a tilth. You may plow them as you please. Like you can later in that surah it says you can. Hit
Does it
them,
really use the word plow?
Yes, in the Arabic, yes.
It
Sometimes
plow
they'll
meaning-
translate it as, they are your farmland. So
Man,
something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. So I have the desire to defend the faith. What is a good outlet for that when there aren't anyone around you attacking the faith? The internet, man. Get on the internet. Start debating. Do some videos. Get on TikTok or Instagram. Start doing that kind of stuff. What do you mean there's no one around you? Get on the internet.
yeah, the internet is
I do.
like the world. It is the world's biggest mission field.
Right. Exactly. There you go, right there. IP, any other books beside Ethics 1677 and Mind and Cosmos on dual aspect idealism? Hi, Than. Get back to your philosophy notes so we can talk. What is it? The book Idealism, New Essays in Metaphysics. Check out that. Love you guys. Thank you for being a blessing to us. Family going through some difficult times. May y'all and everyone who sees pray for us. We certainly will, Christian. I'm preparing a high school Bible study and we'll be going into the nature of God. Any advice on what topics to address? Heresies to warn about, books to read about God's nature specifically. I would poll the high schoolers, see what they want to address. That's what's best because you want them to be interested. So poll them.
One of the part-time jobs that I do have is teaching at Christian high schools. And most of the time what I do when I'm being a substitute teacher or something or anything like that, or if I'm being commissioned to like teach a specific 2-month period or something like that, is I will poll, because you also have to address where the students are at themselves. I've taught students who are like undergraduate level theology, and I've taught students that were like 5th grade level that were 10th graders. So you got to figure out where they're at.
Yeah. Thank you for becoming a channel member, sir. Appreciate it. What books would you recommend for someone who wants to start learning philosophy? If you're a Christian, Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview. It's a good place to start for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martha, who I have no relation to. You look good for not sleeping all weekend. Yeah, thank you. I certainly did not sleep a lot this weekend. I slept a lot today, though. And so
Jealous.
thank you. Atheists use Dawah tactics. They use the same arguments against the resurrection that were discarded decades ago for a new generation that won't know better. Powerful, Aaron. Appreciate the comment. When I grow up, I want to be like you, IP. You can do better. It was a pleasure meeting you. Definitely a win on that debate. Even the Muslim jinns moved away from New York. Yes. Tony was there with me in New York watching me debate or doing the intellectual rap battle with Captain Tazari of the Hebrew Israelites. Man, do you know about that group, Than?
I've done some street evangelization and have had 3 different encounters with.
Yeah. So they think I think if you're of certain descents, like I think African or like Native American descent, you're the real Israelites.
Yeah.
You can only be saved if you have like Israelite blood. And but we're all coming back, I think, in the resurrection. I don't know. Vocab knows this better than I do, but we're all coming back to be their slaves for eternity as they roll over us, which is pretty sad. It shows that they have a superiority complex issue, which is it's like the opposite of like the Nick Fuentes, Corey Muller crowd, but it's like even worse because they think like we should be there. I don't know if it's worse actually. I'd have to think about that. But yeah, it's man, it was wild. But we debated on is Jesus the Most High God, and I got to pull out some arguments I've been saving for a while, so it was fun. Let me do this super chat, then we'll move to the video. Do you mind explaining what you mean when you say Momo existed? Like, is he a person from the 7th century, later co-opted to be Momo?
or was there a guy named Momo living in the 7th century? Vice Rhino, if you're watching, he's talking about Muhammad. Sometimes he gets referred to as Momo here. So I just want you to be aware. So yeah, I think he existed. Actually, I just watched a stream with Joshua Little, who's a Hadith scholar, critical scholar on the History Valley channel. He made some very, very important arguments. For one, there's no reason for the Muslims to have made up the Muhammad that they did. Like the Umayyads were of a different family than the family Muhammad was from, and they were actually competitive. Like there'd be no reason for the Umayyads to make up that Muhammad was from a family that they were competing with for power. Also, I mean, this was a tribal society. They traced names back and back very well. Families, father, the father, the father, the father. And Muhammad's got a genealogy. I think it was a real person. I don't think it's the Muhammad of the Hadith. I think it was a completely different person. I think he probably was living around Mecca, Medina area. Mecca was a very, very small settlement, not the way it's described in the Hadith, like this massive town where he's debating with pagans and Jews and Christians. There's probably like 50 people. And it just got exaggerated over time. But yeah, I just think that the best explanation of all the data is that there was a real person there. So, all right, I'm going to get to some super chats in a bit. And let's get into this video. You ready? You ready to have your mind blown, Fan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, we are going to come back to the Dawah stuff in a bit, which is like the first third of this video, and his misunderstanding of how Christian prophecy works in the New Testament. But I will save that. I will save that. This is him talking about our response to Pascal's wager. Now, to save a lot of confusion of us like playing a reply to a reply to a reply, what we did is we made time markers in places to update you on things going on. That way, it's a little bit easier. So in this part, he's trying to talk about Pascal's wager. He's responding to us. And instead of just playing the whole video through, I made time markers, so it's a lot less confusing. Hope that helps. So let's get into this here. Before we even get to that, he's sort of assuming that Pascal, or his interpretation of Pascal, is like, if you choose theism, you're not going to have a life of pleasure.
That wasn't my interpretation of Pascal. That's what Pascal explicitly stated. I wasn't the one who came up with the phrase renounce pleasure in relation to Pascal's wager. That's what Pascal said needed to happen in order to gain faith. You renounce your pleasure and gain faith in return. You are free to disagree with Pascal and say that the Christian life is full of pleasure if you like, and we can have that conversation. But don't tell me that when I quoted what Pascal was saying, that was just me interpreting his words.
All right. My response is, Vice Rhino, yes, that is you interpreting his words. You have read too much into the word pleasure and assumed it had a modern definition to it. Now, we didn't cover this last time because I was like, we had so much more important stuff to get to, and I just didn't care too much. But he's doubling down on this thing. So yeah. I had you contact Liz Jackson.
Yeah, I'm friends with Liz.
What did she have to say about this?
Let me pull up. I'll just fast forward to Liz really quickly here. Where is that? Liz Jackson in a private message. I just shot her a text and asked her. Obviously, Pascal didn't mean we needed to give up all joy. He's working with a much narrower definition of pleasure. Any charitable interpreter would see that. She also mentioned that she's not aware of any scholar that would interpret Pascal in the way that Vice Rhino has in that video.
Powerful. So let me do my slides because I have a lot less than you do as usual, you crazy person.
I'll just say this really quickly too.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand speech act theory if you think that you're not offering an interpretation of some locution. Like you can't just say I'm not giving an interpretation. This is literally what he says. But the meaning of the words that you're offering are an interpretation of the locution.
Right.
No matter what, you have to interpret it. So don't come at me. Don't come at me with this whole, well, this is just what he says. This is the same thing fundamentalists do when they read the Bible and come to bad conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you read through the section he cited where,
Pascal says to renounce pleasure. He the reading, as Liz seemed to confirm there, is that he's defining pleasures as worldly pleasures, not generally as joy, happiness, fulfillment. If you look at what some of the things he says, like pleasures are only vanity, that our evils are infinite, and lasting, that death which threatens us every moment must infallibly place us within a few years under the dreadful necessity of being forever either annihilated or unhappy. So why would it be a problem to be unhappy if he's talking about pleasure generally? Also says on this point, therefore we condemn those who live without thought of the ultimate end of life, who let themselves be guided by their own inclinations and their own pleasures without reflection, without concern. Again, talking about worldly pleasures, this idea, not pure, not happiness general, not joy generally. At the end of the discourse, he says, now what harm will befall you in taking this side? You will be faithful, honest, humble, grateful, generous, a sincere friend, truthful. Those sound like good qualities that make people happy. Certainly you will not have those poisonous pleasures, glory and luxury, but you will not have, but will you not have others? Okay, there we go. Others. Okay, so again, how is he defining pleasures? Very restrictively. I will tell you that you will thereby gain in this life, in that at each step you take on this road, you will see so great certainty of gain. Oh, so you're gaining so much nothing in what you risk that you will at least recognize that you have wagered for something certain and infinite for which you have given nothing. So one more quote. This is from a parchment sewed into his coat. He talks about a mystical experience he had where he was overcome with joy from experiencing God. And it seems what Pascal is saying is you have to, as we interpret him in modern terminology here, you renounce worldly pleasures because they lead to misery. You embrace the joyful pleasures of God, which is joy, happiness, and, good to go. Like, this is not this idea that Pascal saying you should just have a life of misery as a Christian. But I mean, even if he was, so what? Pascal's wager is not contingent on every belief Pascal had. This is like when a young earth creationist tries to debunk evolution by just quoting Darwin. Okay, the theory has progressed. Theory of evolution goes beyond Darwin now. You should take that kind of stuff into account. Not every belief Darwin had is a threat. I've seen young earth creationists go, yes, well, Darwin married his cousin. You see? This shows you how bad evolution is. Bro, that's absurd. That's a bad argument. Likewise, like trying to attack Pascal's wager, even if you're interpreting him right, is not an actual reply to Pascal's wager. And that's the point I want to make. But you jump in there now. Go for it.
I'll come back to this. I wanted to address another interpretation that he offered for a different statement, but we'll come back to that really after this. So really quickly, in his original video, just to clear things up on the off chance there's any miscommunication here, because Vice Rhino explicitly says in his original video, his solution to the problem of not being able to make a conscious choice to believe in God was to renounce pleasure in order to gain faith. Plus whatever he says in this new video. So I don't think there's any way that we're misrepresenting him, and I just wanted to be clear there. So when you read the Penzies, we already kind of went over this passage here that you went over, Mike, but again, for reiteration, it is of course true, you will not take part in corrupt pleasure, in glory in the pleasures of high living, but will you not have others? So he's clearly not talking about pleasure universally. And if you read the passage more carefully, you're going to see that there's a rhetorical skeptic in the first line, and then his answers in the next. So when we add more context on top of this, there's tons of places where he uses the French word that I'm not going to say, which is distractions. And it's a technical term for what keeps people away from facing their wretchedness and facing existential issues. And what you find in Penzies is that he uses pleasures to be in a category of these distractions, and they have an effect on your ability to believe in God. Why think this? Well, different scholars are going to point this out. For instance, Chade Cordova shows that Pascal's time frame when he's writing about this, distraction stems from a medical notion of melancholy, where distraction is a psychological mechanism that masks existential needs. And that was the context that Pascal is in. So this is not asceticism that Pascal's advocating for. These are existential things. He's saying, give these things up, if not even just temporarily, so that way you can give yourself the freedom and the leeway to actually experience God and all this other stuff. And again, scholars don't read it like he's saying we should. So that's for a later slide. And then the other thing I was just going to do really quickly here is, I thought he covered it in this video, but I guess I was mistaken, but I'll just cover it really quickly. With this passage where God is or he's not, infinite chaos separates us, blah, blah, blah. Then the big thing was, according to reason, you can defend neither of its propositions for whether or not God exists. And Vice Rhino says, so one of the starting assumptions of Pascal's wager is that there are no good arguments for or against God. That is not how the scholars interpret Pascal either. From this book on Pascal's wager, this should not be taken as asserting that evidence and arguments are irrelevant to philosophical theology. Pascal did not think that certain kinds of arguments and evidence are irrelevant, while certain kinds are relevant. In another paper, Argument in Pascal's Pensies, at the end of this paper, the author writes, Pascal's criticisms of natural theology are seen as a protest against particular kinds of religious proofs. And he goes, the unbeliever is to rationally assess the probability of Christian doctrines treated as a hypothesis and to evaluate the benefits of the Christian faith. No leap of faith is required. Scholars do not read this. And then in the Pensies, section 12, it's titled Proofs for Jesus Christ.
Right. Cool.
He's very clearly just not against, or he very clearly doesn't think that reason doesn't lead you to Christianity being true.
Right. Good point. Good point. So, okay, let's jump back to this, play a little bit more, and let's see if David Wood's going to turn up or not. I don't know, guys. Let's see what happens. Ton of that data.
How many of those things, I wonder, are caused by being Christian rather than being part of?
All right, let me set this up because I forgot I wanted to say what happens. Okay, so in this part, he's taking issue with us saying that Christian life is the most fulfilling life. Okay. And in our reply, I cited a bunch of sociological data to support this. So he's taking issue with that here. And this is his reply to that. Ton of that data.
How many of those things, I wonder, are caused by being Christian rather than being part of the social majority? I'm not going to get into all of those metrics, but research into religion and happiness rarely separates out which religions they are looking at. It's almost always in the context of how often a person attends a religious service. And pretty consistently, they find that people who attend more often tend to have higher subjective well-being scores. But since it's not separated by religion, it stands to reason that the higher well-being scores are the result of essentially being part of a social group with shared values. But that also doesn't tell the full picture. People who are part of the social group but do not share some of the values can be very negatively impacted. And this...
Okay. So as far as I can tell, that is false. There is a lot of research that has looked into intrinsic and extrinsic religiosity. He should have reviewed the video that I cited last time. It is linked below. Is Christianity harmful? Because I directly addressed this in that video. Let me just take some slides. I just went and got screenshots from it because make this pretty simple. First of all, here I was talking. I've got this confirmed from multiple sociologists now that I've talked to. I said, hey, if I'm reading a study, how do I know that it's who's in the sample size? Is it Christians, Muslims, Jews? Both of them have smiled and said, if they don't say anything, the majority is probably Christian. Why? Because most of the research is done in Christian nations with Christian populations. When they branch out of that, they are excited and they want the sociological community to know. So 9 times out of 10, the majority of the sample sizes are going to be Christians with some Jews and some other religions sprinkled in typically. That's just basically what happens. And so let me pull up some slides, which I talked about this in more detail in the video linked below. Is Christianity harmful? So in this book here, it says a large portion of the existing research has largely focused on Western nations. Then there was a study on Buddhism. And what did they say? They said, as a mainstream religion in Western society, Christianity is typically the religion that is the focus of this type of research, talking about crime and aggression, these kinds of things. Now, there's a whole ton of research that is also looked at, and again, these are all slides from that video, has looked at beyond church attendance. It's the IE orientation, extrinsic, intrinsic orientation. Researchers like 50, 60, 70 years ago were just wondering the same thing. Where are the benefits of religion coming from? external factors associated with the religion, like being a part of a social group, attending weekly service, or the intrinsic aspects, the beliefs themselves, the core beliefs of the religion. And in the 80s, they added quest, which is not important for this video today. Okay, well, going back to 1967, in spite of this broad tendency, the relationship, in fact, exists. The intrinsically motivated churchgoers are significantly less prejudiced than extrinsically motivated. So they basically noted that prejudice tied to the extrinsic factors, not the intrinsic factors. 1997, the E scale, that's the extrinsic scale, does a good job of measuring the sort of religion that gives religion a bad name. The I scale correlated positively with other measures of religious commitment, internal locus of control, purpose in life, and negatively with trait anxiety. So it's not just attending church. It is the intrinsic aspects. You attend church because you believe the religion is true. Okay. Another study. We see that religion, actually, intrinsic aspects of religiosity lower suicide risk. This is something I talk about later. Here's a study I've cited time and time again, religion and the 5 factors of personality. They broke it down. Okay. People that were extrinsically religious, as you can see at the bottom, negative, correlated with neuroticism. The rest were non-significant. Okay. At the top, that's the I scale. As you can see, it correlates with agreeableness, extroversion, conscientiousness, non-significant with neuroticism or openness. And if you're mature in your religion, even better results. Religious fundamentalism is, of course, a problem. Totally agree it's a problem. And that's defined differently in theology and sociology as like this, the radical wing, not the main religious people. Here's an interesting study I have probably read like 5 times. I have emailed the study authors, and I talked to 2 of them through email because I was really trying to study this study because I saw atheists using it to argue that religion causes racism. Well, again, when you go to their own charts, it's the extrinsic factors, religious fundamentalism, but Christian orthodoxy and intrinsic religiosity, not significant. They even say, we found no relation between the endorsement of religious doctrine specific to the Christian faith and racial prejudice. Okay. It thus seems that the motives to be religious also are a motivator of racism, and these motives appear to be broadly applicable as a framework for understanding religious racism. So it's tied to the extrinsic factors. So that's what I wanted to bring up there. Again, I have covered this so much more in detail in my video, Is Christianity Harmful? And even if Vice Rhino was right, okay, it's just attending a church. What encourages people to attend church? Christianity. Okay, so you can't separate those out. Like, we don't see the same thing with like secularism. Them attending like weekly meetings, being a part of strong social groups. We see that declining rapidly in secular groups and ideologies. So yeah, this simply doesn't work here. But again, this is just a sneak peek of a lot of the data I covered in that video. Is Christianity harmful? Vice Rhino, if you want to have a conversation on this, be more than happy to. I'd be more than happy to do that as well.
Yeah.
On the channel, you can come on, talk to my audience directly. I don't care.
Yeah, I wish he would have at least cited some studies to try to back up what he was saying too, though. That I don't know.
I agree. Let's get to some super chats here. Mother Hulda says, what was the dinner with Douglas Wilson about? I'm torn about much of what he says. Yeah, me too. I don't agree with everything he says by far. And I was surprised after you did an interview with Sheila Gregoire a while back. So no, what was going on is Turning Point USA Faith brought us in, different people in for interviews. They film them all in one day. Then they took us out to dinner. I told them flat out, I'm not doing politics, but I'm happy to go anywhere to talk about Christianity. I'm happy to go anywhere. And of course, liberals are clutching their pearls now because he's a Turning Point. Yeah, I'm sorry, Pharisees. I was associating with those tax collectors and sinners. Don't care what you think. I will go and I will preach the gospel wherever it needs to be preached, whether it's with conservatives or liberals. If a liberal organization invited me, I would do the exact same thing, but they haven't. Turning Point USA Faith invited me to do an interview on the evidence for Christianity, evidence against Islam. Happy to do that anywhere, anytime. And if you're clutching your pearls because you saw a photo of me next to Doug Wilson, you need to check yourself because you're a legalist and probably have a superiority complex. I disagree with Doug Wilson on plenty of things. That doesn't mean I cannot break bread with him And if you don't think you can, you need to check yourself. So that's what I would say. I'm not saying you're saying that, Hulda.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the liberals that were, clutching their pearls about that. So I'm not directing that at you. Just want to be clear about that. Then you check the vid, Almight reading the Bible. What?
I will I will do that eventually. Here, I'll put it on my to watch list. How
Cool.
about that? That way,
What's a
I
great
don't keep forgetting.
resource race for the early church fathers and the Nicene meeting? I cited some books in my video, the top 10 myths about Constantine. Check those books out. Because I cited some books specifically on the Council of Nicaea. I forget what they are, but check those books out. They're in that video. Why did you allow, okay, here we go again. Why did you allow Dr. Law to insinuate that Eastern religions are comparable to Christianity? They're easily susceptible to communism and authoritarianism. Okay, again, I'm on unbelievable. Unbelievable is a conversation. You do not have time to address a lot of things, especially when he was, dare I say, kind of gish galloping. I did not have the time to address literally everything he said. What do you want me to do? Like, you address it now if you're upset about that. I addressed as much as I could in the time that was allotted to me. That's just the way unbelievable works. Like, sorry.
And
that
it's hard
we
in
don't-
debates. Like,
yeah, it's hard to remember literally everything. I bet you see Apology's video about you and Moses' writing where the thumbnail looks like you, AP, did a fusion dance. No, I did not see that. What do you
Wait,
do
wait.
now? We gonna have to respond to that?
that could be fun. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see it. Oh God. Yeah, we're gonna respond to this. This is gonna be
Dude,
fun.
what is this? That does not.
Debating.
Is this supposed to be
No, it's new. Yeah, it came out 11 hours ago. We're gonna have to look at that. Yeah, because he brought a Joel Baden in, and I've done a bunch of replies to Joel Baden already, so I'm happy to respond to that for sure. That'll be
new?
fun.
Fun.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that came out today. Yeah, we're gonna see. How much you want to bet? I've not watched it yet. How much you want to bet documentary hypothesis crap that we're gonna be able to address easily?
Oh, a lot. My head's already racking on what I'm anticipating.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's definitely on our list now for sure. Yeah, I didn't even see that, but yeah, we will.
Yeah, thanks for
he
bringing
wants
that to our attention.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm at the point now where I just see their responses and I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I've seen what you guys have put out for years. I know what it's going to be. So you want to keep trying, but you're just going to give us more material to work with. I heard you say Christianity invented hospitals, but I'm having a hard time finding sources that back you up. Watch the video.
Watch the videos.
I just put out a video, how Christianity created human rights. I talk about it in there. So check that out. Many atheists do this. They take whichever position is most disagreeable to Christians simply for the sake of not being proactive. Not all, of course, but many such as Ben Watkins and Vice Rhino. Okay. I don't
think Ben Watkins does that.
Yeah.
At least
Elder
on my
Dawah.
experience.
Elder Dawah Troll says in Surah Yusuf 12, best of stories, it is the BK of Mormon, which clears Allah's words from the corrupted Injil. You see, powerful Dawah. That is very, very powerful Dawah. This is about predicting the rise of Mormonism, fan, obviously.
Really? Wait. Do
Obviously.
they actually argue that they predict?
No,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
trolling.
Well, I don't know, bro. How am I supposed to know what's real and what's not at this point?
When you do Dawah, I get what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah. So, okay, let's get back to this video. Where are we at in this? Here we go. Okay.
And this is particularly prevalent in LGBTQ youth. To quote a 2015 study, LGBT young adults who mature in religious contexts have higher odds of suicidal thoughts and more specifically chronic suicidal thoughts, as well as suicide attempt compared to other LGBT young adults. So, yeah, there is a psychological benefit to conformity, but many people are unable to conform for a variety of reasons, and trying to pressure them into trying to conform ends up being worse for their mental health than just not conforming in the first place. But what about when the research does look at religion separately? Well, then we find that Protestants are the happiest, scoring an average of 3.21 on a scale of 1 to 4. Buddhists and other religions are second with a score of 3.17. Catholics are third with a score of 3.13. Jews and Hindus are neck and neck with scores of 3.06 and 3.05 respectively. Muslims and non-religious are similarly close with scores of 3.03 and 3.02 respectively. And then the only group to score below a 3 were Orthodox Christians with a score of 2.72. So it appears that, at the very least, there is not a correlation between happiness and the correctness of your religion, thus supporting the idea that the psychological benefits that come with religion are because of social factors rather than actual truth.
Okay, that is very obviously a false dichotomy. It's not. I don't think we argued that because Christianity is true, it's going to make you happier. Did we? If we did, then we misspoke. Truth. I mean,
Yeah.
as we just pointed out, it's intrinsic benefits of the religion, not just social benefits of the religion that can explain the benefits. And again, what I said last time is I tried to give a more well-rounded picture. It's not just happiness scores, because happiness is hard to measure. You just ask people if they're happy. I'd rather look at things like mental health issues, depression, suicide rates, levels of self-control, which is actually much easier to study using things like Stroop trials.
What was the name
and
of that
other
study
factors.
he cited?
What's that?
What was the name of that study he cited? I didn't get a chance to look at it.
It's at the bottom. Are happiness and life satisfaction differences across religious groups? That's the one he cited.
Can you say that again?
And are happiness and life satisfaction different across religious groups?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, this is kind of it's an odd argument because again, this is just a flat out false dichotomy. Flat out false dichotomy. We never argued, at least as far as I can remember, that because religion is true, you're going to be because Christianity is true, you're going to be happier. So this is a straw man. And of course, the whole title of this video is a straw man, defending Christianity by complaining about Islam. Never once did we defend Christianity by complaining about Islam. We're allowed to complain about Islam without meaning it's defending Christianity, bro. Like that is a total straw man of anything we ever said. But getting the clickbait titles in, I guess. So again, this is bad. Let's maybe move ahead a little bit here. I think just to save some time.
Buddhists and pagans are better off than most Christians. But the thing is, while it is nice to look at statistics and say religious people are statistically more happy, therefore everyone should be religious just from a pragmatic standpoint, there are individual factors at play here. For
Yeah, we never argued against that.
me personally, I continued attending church and going through the motions of being religious for about a year after I realized I was an atheist. While I was a Christian, yes, church was good for my mental health. But that year where I was just going through the motions was one of the most painful years of my life, despite the fact that I was not only attending a Christian church, but was in the category of Protestant, which wound up being the happiest of all the categories.
So he just kind of proved my point, Than. He was not religious at that point intrinsically. He was extrinsically religious, and he was miserable.
Going through the motions.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my point. Like the benefits come from intrinsic religiosity. Extrinsic religiosity is associated with negative factors. Like, yeah, totally agree, man. Like that's the point we make. That actually contradicts what he said earlier about it. Oh, it's just coming from the social aspects of the religion. If he was still attending church for the social aspects, he should have been doing great. But he's saying he was doing miserable. Right. So you just contradicted yourself, bro. It's not the social factors that the benefits come from. Why did you make that point earlier and then argue from your personal experience that the benefits were not coming from the social factors? I don't know what to do, man. I don't get it.
That's the thing that really stood out. Like putting aside the fact that he's focusing on Pascal himself here rather than like some of the updated literature on this.
Yeah, how dare I focus on the writings of the guy who it's named after?
Yeah, so he's you know what, Sam? I think from now on, I'm going to remind atheists they can no longer use modern books to argue the problem of evil. They just have to go to Epicurus. They're using any modern updates on Epicurus's argument. No. You got to go to the founder and only use his crap. How dare they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be with Paul Draper next month. He's presenting 2 new papers, and he's got his new book that he's putting up on evil and suffering too. But I guess I have to tell him that it's pointless because Vice Rhino told us that we shouldn't use updated modern literature, I guess.
Yeah.
Like also, I mean, like, I will say, how dare you? Because in your first video, you said, and I quote at timestamp 446, When I make videos like this, I endeavor to provide you with the best versions of the argument I can given my understanding. So if your understanding of Pascal's wager is only Pascal, okay, that's fine. But later on in this video at around the 23:42 timestamp mark, you say, sure, it can be modified over time. I don't see a problem with that, but I haven't seen any formulations that really address any of the core issues. That seems to suggest that you do know that there's modern versions that would be better than Pascal. I don't see a way to interpret this any other way than you not being consistent with the fact that you're trying to give the best versions of the argument. So yeah, like, how dare you use Pascal? I'm not actually saying like you're doing anything evil or anything like that, but I think this is a fair complaint given the statements you make in the last video and in this video.
Again, it's like trying to debunk evolution by just attacking Darwin, which young Earth creationists do, and we would agree that that's bad. But like, yeah, you said it. So
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Let's jump ahead a little bit. Where are we at now? So now we're moving ahead to a different argument. So Than made the argument that Vice Rhino would just So Vice Rhino seemed to be arguing that, life is about sex, drugs, rock and roll. And then you responded by saying, like, you don't really mean that. Life isn't just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's the reason for rejecting religion. This is his response to that.
You are correct. It is not what I'm going to say. I'll point out things like being able to make life decisions without worrying about whether or not it's a sin. Do I want a beer with my dinner? Well, depending on which Christian you ask, it's either fine or it's a sin. Do I want to go watch a movie? Well, better check the Dove Foundation's website to see if it's got their approval. I wouldn't want to anger God by enjoying the wrong kind of movie. Do I want to listen to this music? Better make sure it's not rated as explicit first. God doesn't like the swears. But also, like, yeah, sex. I am not currently married to my partner, and when we have sex, I can just enjoy it without worrying about whether or not it makes Jesus sad. And even for sex acts within marriage, I remember being a young married Christian man scouring the Bible for passages that could answer the question of whether or not oral sex was okay, because it's something that I really enjoy, and Christian opinions are divided on the matter. The Christian has to navigate life asking themselves these questions over and over again, often being forced to decide between different Christian leaders coming down on different sides of the issue. The atheist can just enjoy enjoyable things without worrying about the implications for the next life. Now, I have no idea what Mike's position is on any of these issues, but the way I see it, best case scenario here is that he could come back and say, of course you can have a beer with dinner. Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. Why would he be against alcohol?
Based.
Or, yeah, just go see the movie. Enjoy. Even if it depicts sinful actions as acceptable, you can just enjoy it for the fictional story that it is. And given his lack of complaining about me swearing so far, I don't think he has an issue with swearing. So, sure, listen to that music that has the explicit rating.
This bitch has been swearing this whole time and no one told me. Get the pitchforks, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But
the fact of the matter is that even if he does have those very reasonable opinions, there are other Christians who do not share those opinions and who would preach against alcohol, secular movies, and explicit music. So the Christian layperson looking for guidance can find opinions either way, both using Bible verses to support their positions. So either you're giving up these simple pleasures in life, or else there will always be a nagging concern that you are wrong to not give them up.
All right, so a lot of problems here. For one thing, the Islamic Deliminator has arrived.
He's here.
There he is, folks. Stoic as always.
Talk about pleasure of the eyes.
So real quick, we're gonna, now that David Wood is here, we saved him the Islamic stuff because we knew he'd want to do that. So real quick, I want to say he's talking about this whole idea about how Christianity means you're just going to start like worrying about little things here and there, and you're not going to have pleasure in life. First of all, my first thought is study. Where's the study that shows Christianity leads to higher levels of stress, lower levels of well-being, because you're constantly worried about sins? And second of all, I see this kind of crap all the time from the left, the woke. Like, can you say this word? Can you do this word? Bill Maher has complained about this. Patton Oswalt has complained about, like, they're walking on eggshells about what to say, who they're going to possibly offend. Like, I find when I hang around with Christians, I'm a lot more comfortable with words I can use because I'm not going to have to be worried if I'm going to accidentally be racist or, like get attacked by the LGBT community in some way. Like, it seems a lot more pretty chill.
Like, so, again, there's so many problems here where he's just assuming it's this. He's oversimplifying
Yeah.
a lot of complexity here about humanity.
But this is also just not a feature of Christianity alone. An atheist could have these same worries, just remove the question of whether or not God is going to be upset with you. An atheist that, for instance, is like a moral realist, or even if you're not a moral realist as an atheist, right? You're still going to be concerned about whether or not the actions you're making are good or bad, or if they're harmful or not harmful. You're still going to be asking those questions. Just inserting God into the equation doesn't remove a layer of decision making all of a sudden.
Yeah. How you doing, David?
I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out what your all's conversation is about.
Oh, it's a later part in the video. We were saving the Islamic stuff for you, so we kind of were doing responding to other parts of his video, and now we're going to go back and do his stuff on Islam. So this does not concern you, actually. The stuff we're about to play concerns you.
I get it.
Get it. You do a lot of good. What? Did you do a lot of good research on the? Did you do a lot of good research on the bus?
No, I was too tired.
All right.
I did start reading one of those Zoot articles though.
Yeah.
The one from the most recent one you sent, the one from India.
Oh, okay, good.
Or Bangladesh. I think that was Bangladesh. The guy from Bangladesh was the author of that one.
Yeah, it's covering the region basically, but yeah, same culture, similar areas, but interesting stuff coming from.
They definitely covered Muhammad's region.
Interesting stuff coming. David and I've been talking about. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna start recording a video this week on that. So, all right. You recovered from New York yet?
Oh no, I will. Fortunately, we have a nurse tonight, so go live with you for a little while, and then I'm going to sleep for about 1,000 hours.
That sounds good.
In theory,
Rebecca
doesn't always work out like I plan.
Always, yeah. I'm learning loads from channels challenging Islam, but not a lot of Muslims near me, so less useful. Who is doing good stuff on atheism at the moment? We are right now, baby.
Yeah. My old channel too had a bunch of positive stuff for Christianity and like arguments against the different atheistic arguments. If you want to tackle that, we'll have lots of series in the future on that too.
And as far as not having lots of Muslims around you, that's what the internet's for.
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
Yeah,
amen.
Do that. Hi, IP. Can you give me some basic formulation of an argument for moral objectivity, since moral objectivity seems impossible to defend against moral relativists? Thanks. Yeah, so my argument that I've gotten from like atheistic moral realists, or atheists and moral realists, is that the burden is on the subjectivists. Moral realism is intuitive. It's our starting point. They need to offer a better explanation of reality. It's not on us to show this when this is just the way humans tend to operate. It's the way moral values and duties manifest in reality. If they're violated, we assume justice is required. They don't manifest like evolutionary traits like taste preferences, for example. So there's a lot of issues there for sure. Anything you want to say, David?
No, I just point out you can just start asking some questions. It's actually hard to find a real moral relativist once you start asking questions about, if we started doing just all sorts of perverted, messed up things and torturing to a baby and torturing the baby and stuff like this. It's actually fairly rare to find someone to say, nope, nothing really wrong with it. I just wouldn't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also just out of curiosity, I want to know who you're interacting with. Because like if you go to the Phil Paper survey, which it was 2020 last time, where they surveyed professional philosophers, 62% accept or lean towards moral realism. So if you're saying it's impossible to defend against people that deny it, are you saying it's like random people on the internet, or are you saying, people that know philosophy? That's going to be important too.
Jackson,
and you can always ask about specifically religious examples if it's someone who's hostile towards religion that you're talking to. Hey, what about what if we were to just burn you alive or burn witches or something like that? There's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing really wrong. It's just taste preference. Again, pretty rare to find a genuine stand his ground at all costs, moral realist. And then if he stands his ground and says, yes, I mean, relativist, but if he still stands his ground in spite of all this, and you give him a good slap in the mouth, suddenly he's going to think it's wrong.
Yeah. What would be a few good talking points to show my family how science and evolution is compatible with the Bible? I would recommend you go through my Genesis 1 to 11 series. It is a playlist on this channel. I made all the videos in it. You'll get plenty of good talking points there. That is not what we have time to cover here. So, all right, David, you ready to see some powerful dawah from the atheist here? This is Vice Rhino.
Vice Rhino.
Yep.
kind of stupid name is that? You go to one of those websites where it's just like, hey, pick 2 random stupid words and put them together for my channel name.
I don't know, man.
He's never going to come on and talk to us.
All right, Vice Rhino, if you want to come on, David will not be here.
Oh,
Yeah, again,
and
this is-
if I am, I'll pretend your channel name is super cool.
So mean, man.
Oh wait, he's
Yeah,
responding to you
again,
guys.
this
Yeah.
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 What the heck is this outfit?
My gosh, how many times?
He likes bow ties, man. There's nothing wrong with bow ties. Sam
Yeah,
wears
but,
bow ties.
with that shirt, what is this? It's like a guy
Man,
who's
dude.
like, it's like a guy who's like goes to the store. I bet this will look cool, and it doesn't. You know what I mean? Anyway,
That's me picking out clothes all the time. I'm bad at it.
This is my fault for using hyperbole for the sake of clicks, I guess. I am aware that I didn't actually destroy anything. To
my
reiterate, the
goodness.
purpose of that video is to explain why people find the arguments unconvincing. I
Is his
know that
entire
it didn't
background
destroy
purple?
anything.
Yeah. Well,
what the heck is this, man? Hey, wait, he's got a freaking stupid rhino.
man.
A rhino and he's supposed to be the rhino.
yeah, I think so.
This dude.
Glad you're here, David. You really make
Man.
it. Really make it.
I'm going to be totally. I'm not going to be able to pay attention to anything this dude says, man. I'm going to be like purple background, stupid, what red velvet bow tie on the ugliest shirt I've ever seen in my life. None of it holds together, and he's supposed to be a rhino.
Man, I don't know. I'm not even questioning
Man,
that.
I guess wait till you.
We've not even considered that.
That's not the stuff that goes through my head, David.
If I hear someone, I'm the such and such rhino, I'm expecting like I don't know. Let's just say I'm
man.
expecting something different from what I've seen here with his purplish background and red velvet or silk tie or I don't know.
So, all right. So he's going to talk about something we had said in our stream. So let me see where this is. We had made a comment about Islam, kind of like off the cuff. So let me play this for you, David. This was our earlier video, and he wants to respond to this, and he had to defend Islam. This is mainly the reason I wanted to do this stream, is this segment here. His arguments for God's existence, and then we'll respond and show where he is going wrong.
Start with the weakest and work our way up to the better arguments. So coming in at number 10, we have Pascal's Wager. Named for Blaise Pascal, he apparently didn't think it worth publication as it was first published in Pensée, a posthumous compilation of his unpublished notes. The basic idea is that either God exists or he does not exist. And this will lead you to one of 4 scenarios. If God exists and you believe he exists, then you stand to gain an immeasurable reward for your belief. But if he exists and you do not believe he exists, then you will be punished immeasurably for your disbelief. On the other hand, if God does not exist and you believe he exists, then you lose very little. And if he does not exist and you believe he does not exist, you gain very little. Given the immeasurably large gain if it turns out that God exists and you believe in him, it makes sense then that you should believe in him even if he does not exist, because the stakes are just too darn high to do otherwise. Notably, Pascal in the preamble to this argument states that reason cannot be used to come to a conclusion about the existence of God, stating God is or he is not. But to which side shall we incline? Reason can decide nothing here. According to reason, you can do neither the one thing nor the other. According to reason, you can defend neither of the propositions. So one of the starting assumptions of Pascal's Wager is that there are no good arguments for or against God. So you may as well believe in God on the chance that he is real and will reward you for it. But I'm sure many of you have noticed a glaring problem here. It assumes that the Christian God is the only option. What if I believe in God, but I find deism to be easier to believe than Christianity, or Islam, or Hinduism, etc.? Well, then, if
Real quick, if you think Islam is a good option, we've got so many issues right
I was
there.
waiting for it. Oh man.
did I say that Islam was a good option? I wasn't arguing for Islam.
Duh.
I was merely mentioning that it exists as a religion. I agree with you, Mike. Islam is not true. This is just a weird thing to fixate on here.
Bro, it's a stream. Calm down, bro. We were not saying you were arguing for Islam. Like, what even was that? But now you're kind of about to, which is kind of an odd thing you're about to do here. I mean, there's no evidence for Islam. Their argument from scientific miracles in the Quran debunked, perfect preservation of the Quran debunked. Now even their argument Muhammad's in the Bible, like Sajid Lippam is saying, yeah, that's not true. So Muhammad's not in our Bible.
I haven't looked into most of those, but there are definitely Bible verses that I could see being interpreted as references to Muhammad, at least as clearly as a lot of the supposed Old Testament prophecies that apologists claim are referring to Jesus. John 1:20 and 21, for instance, says, "He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, 'I am not the Christ.' And they asked him, 'What then? Are you Elijah?' He said, 'I am not.' 'Are you the prophet?' And he answered, 'No.'" One of Muhammad's titles is the Prophet, and this verse is clearly talking about the Prophet as a separate entity from the Christ. So it could very easily be interpreted as referencing Muhammad. Do I think that it actually is? Of course not. But that's miles better than the vast majority of the supposed prophecies of Jesus on that list of over 300 mentions of Jesus in the Old Testament that I go back to regularly. Let's do another one.
All right, David, what do you think? What do you think of that?
Why don't you go ahead and pull up John 1 for everyone?
Yep.
Might need to take a peek at John 1 because the entire argument just massively self-destructs when you read before or after it, let alone take a closer look at the actual passage in question. So now scroll. You know what? Just to make sure we got things in context, why don't you scroll back to like verse 1? You know what I mean? So let me see what we got here. We got, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him," through the Word, "and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." We get down to verse 14, and we have, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth." So you've got the Word who is God and who's with God and who becomes flesh. This sounds like it's talking about Jesus, by golly. All right. So if I had to read that entire prologue there, those first 16 verses, I would say there's not a whole lot that could contradict Islam more than the opening of the Gospel of John, these first 16 verses. But then we get to the passage in question, the testimony of John the Baptist, right? It says, "And this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, 'Who are you?' He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, 'I am not the Christ.'" So John the Baptist says he's not the Messiah. "And they asked him, 'What then? Are you Elijah?' He said, 'I am not.' 'Are you the prophet?' And he answered, 'No.'" So since your buddy here is saying, since John the Baptist said, because keep in mind, that's the entire passage, that 19 to 21 that he mentions. So since John the Baptist said, "I am not the prophet," therefore there's some kind of good case, somewhat, I mean, compared to the case from the Old Testament prophesying Jesus, that he could actually see that, yeah, this could be about Muhammad. He doesn't believe it is, but it's at least it's more than plausible compared to the verses that Christians use from the Old Testament. So John the Baptist saying he's not the prophet is at least some reason to think that Muhammad is a prophet. So that's interesting. But what happens if we keep reading? What matter of fact, before we even continue reading, think about what just happened there. So this, and the Muslim argument is based on expectation of the Jewish leaders, right? So their argument, he doesn't flesh it out, but their argument is, since you've got Elijah and the Christ, they ask you, are you the Christ? Says no. Are you Elijah? No. Are you the prophet? No. And the argument is, therefore, the Jewish leaders were expecting these to be three separate individuals. And the argument is then, well, that means that the Christ is not the prophet, and therefore that the prophet is someone else who is not Jesus. Right now, we already know the problems with that because Jesus is identified as the prophet in the book of Acts. But John the Baptist says that he's not these individuals. But the argument is, well, this is what the Jewish leaders were expecting, and therefore it must be right, and therefore Jesus cannot be the prophet. What's the problem with this argument as Muslims use it? If you're basing your argument on the expectations of the Jewish leaders, did they go to an Arab to look for the prophet?
Nope.
No. Who did they go to?
A Jew.
They went to a Jew. So their expectation of who the prophet would be is that he would be a Jew. Why? Because that's exactly what the prophecy says. One of the brothers of the children of Israel, right? So if you're saying, notice that you can make an Islamic dilemma out of this. If you're saying that the Jews had their expectations right, great. Then they were expecting a Jewish prophet to fulfill the prophecy. If you're saying they're wrong about their expectations about this prophet being Jewish, why do you think they're right about their expectations about the prophet being someone separate from the Christ? So that's just if you did nothing but look at the actual passage. It's based on Jewish expectation, particularly the Jewish leaders. And if you base it on their expectations, Muhammad can't be the prophet because he's not Jewish, right? So that's a problem. But we could keep reading. So they said to him, who are you? We need to give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? He said, I'm the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as the prophet Isaiah had said. Who's he preparing the way for?
The Lord.
Jesus.
The Lord. And that's Jesus, as we're familiar with. So the prophecy is about preparing the way for Yahweh, and John the Baptist is preparing the way for Jesus. So that doesn't fit with Islam very well. Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, then why are you baptizing if you are neither the Christ nor Elijah nor the prophet? John answered them, I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know, even he who comes after me, the strap of whose sandal I am not worthy to untie. These things took place in Bethany beyond the Jordan where John was baptizing. The next day he saw Jesus coming toward him and said, behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Does that sound like Islam?
Nope, not at all.
This is he of whom I said, after me comes a man who ranks before me because he was before me. I myself did not know him, but for this purpose I came baptizing with water that he might be revealed to Israel. And John bore witness. I saw the Spirit descend from heaven like a dove, and it remained on him. It sounds like when the voice came from heaven and said, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. And the Spirit descended to show whom this voice was talking about. I myself did not know him, but he who sent me to baptize with water said to me, he on whom you see the Spirit descend and remain, this is he who baptizes with the Holy Spirit. Wait a minute, baptizing with the Holy Spirit? I thought the angel Gabriel's the Holy Spirit, according to Islam. So how's someone baptizing with the Holy Spirit? And then what's he say? And I have seen and have borne witness that this is the Son of God. Anything in this entire chapter line up with Islam even slightly? No. Islam would call all of this heretical nonsense and kill you for saying this stuff if they had the opportunity. Somehow you go to 3 verses and you say, the Jewish expectation must be correct. And then you have to throw out the Jewish expectation. This is one of the worst arguments ever offered for anything ever. And he says, but that's at least as good as, Isaiah 53. I'm a rhino. I'm a rhino.
Then you have verse 45 where Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph. So as we know, the prophet the religious leaders were asking about is from Deuteronomy 18:18. Philip says that's actually Jesus. So if you actually just read if you read the rest of the Gospel of John over and over again, John tells us the prophet is Jesus. He's the Messiah and the prophet. It's not just in Acts. It's throughout John over and over again. The prophet is Jesus. The prophet is Jesus. The prophet is Jesus. So now Vice Rhino is obviously not arguing that this is true, but I cannot tell if he just rejects it because he doesn't believe in a God and therefore doesn't believe in prophecy, or he just thinks this is a bad argument itself, because it sounded like he was just saying this is bad because he's an atheist and rejects prophecy.
He's also just trying to say that, he says this in the video at some point. He says something like, well, is Muhammad in the Bible then? No, but this is at least on, I don't remember if he said better or on par with the
He
prophecy.
said better.
Did
He
say
said it's better. He said it's not necessarily better than every example Christians use, but he said it's better than I think he said most of the list of Old Testament prophecies about Jesus that Christians use. Said something
Well,
like
let's get to his reason as to why, because he's about to demonstrate he doesn't actually understand how prophecy works in the New Testament, which is, he should have left this section alone. He thought he was making a point. He just showed his ignorance on some issues here.
Another one just for fun. Using a random number generator, I got 110. So let's see what the 110th prophecy is. And the 111th is from the same section of the Bible, so let's do both. Psalm 40 is a psalm of David, so this is ostensibly King David writing a song of praise for God. The prophecies are found in verses 9 and 14. Verse 9 says, I have told the glad news of deliverance in the great congregation. Behold, I have not restrained my lips, as you know, O Lord. Verse 14 says, let those be put to shame and disappointed altogether who seek to snatch away my life. Let those be turned back and brought to dishonor who delight in my hurt. So, yeah, nothing really screams Jesus here. It's the author saying, I preached about deliverance in the first one, and praying for protection from people who seek to hurt him in the second. Sure, Jesus also preached about deliverance, but it's not clear that this is written in the form of a prophecy, and preaching about deliverance is a very common theme all throughout the Bible. It's not specific to Jesus. Same with divine protection from those who seek to hurt God's chosen people, though that one's kind of on again, off again, depending on how God is feeling about his chosen people on any given day. If these two verses can be about Jesus, then I don't see why John 1:20 through 21 couldn't be about Muhammad. Again, just for clarity, I do not think that it is actually about Muhammad. That would be absurd. I just think that if we're being consistent in judging what verses count as prophecy, the verse in John actually does a better job of pointing to Muhammad than the verse in Psalms does for Jesus.
Huge glaring difference there. The passage in John, all of John 1 completely contradicts Islam. All of John 1 completely contradicts Islam. So if you went to a psalm and someone said, hey, this verse is about Jesus, and the rest of the psalm just completely contradicts everything about Jesus, then you could say you got the same issue here. But at the bare minimum, if it's not massively contradictory to point to a verse, then it wouldn't be as bad as Muslims appealing to John 1 right from the get-go. Now, what are you thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, he says,
because I think we're thinking the same thing about that. Anyway, go.
Yeah, well, he says we got to be consistent. The problem is that we are. He seems to think that like when we're doing when Christians have done prophecy in the past, it's all meant to be literal. And a lot of the prophecies that are applied to Jesus in the New Testament are typological. The difference is Muslims are saying this is a literal prophecy. This is a reason to believe in Islam. We are not saying beyond layman fundamentalist circles. We are not saying these are reasons, because a lot of these passages that are being told are prophecies in the New Testament are typological prophecies. In other words, they're not literal. And I did a video on this back in January. I'm just, again, grab slides from that. Okay. I cited very conservative scholars on purpose because I wanted people to know, like, this is not coming from like liberal scholars. It's coming from people like Paul Copen. He notes the Greek verb fulfill means something much broader than this. In fact, most instances of the word fulfill do not imply prediction. When Jesus came to fulfill all things which are written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms, he was bringing to fruition the significance of the entire Old Testament, much of which was not predictive. Adam sacrifices the high priesthood, Jonah being in the fish's belly for 3 days, and so on. When we read in Matthew, this was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. Matthew means this was to bring to completion what was spoken by the prophet. Fulfillment does not exclude prediction, but it presents a much broader, richer understanding. We should think more in terms of foreshadowing or prefiguring rather than predicting. Note, there are two types of prophecies: literal, like Zechariah 9:9, the Messiah is going to ride a donkey into Jerusalem, fulfilled in Matthew 21. But typological prophecies are like following a pattern. Jesus followed a pattern that was in the Old Testament. We're not saying like Hosea or the Psalm is predicting Jesus. That's not what the New Testament authors were trying to do. This is pointed out by Craig Blomberg. Again, another very conservative scholar. He says, when the gospel writers use typology, they are often not claiming to be interpreting the meaning of the Old Testament passages cited, but rather showing how contemporary events are falling into a pattern so reminiscent of what God did in the past that they can explain the present only in terms of God's acting again. Thus, when Matthew says that Hosea 11:1 was fulfilled by the Holy Family sojourn in Egypt, he is calling attention to the striking coincidence that just as Israel had to be protected and delivered from Egypt in Moses' day, so now God's Messiah had to be sheltered in that foreign land until he could return safely to his home. Last quote, John Wenham, very conservative. He thinks he holds to Matthean priority, not Markan priority.
Mhm.
He says, very conservative. Matthew is often concerned rather with the fulfillment of what is prefigured rather than the fulfillment of predictions. The words of Hosea were in the highest sense fulfilled in the flight and return of the Savior from Egypt. So, look, Vice Rhino, if we're going to be consistent, you need to be consistent as well. When Muslims, and what you did through, like, similar to them, when they bring up John 1:20, 19:20, they're saying that's a literal prophecy. What you did then is then you went to prophecies in the Old Testament that are typological. So you're actually not being consistent here. You're comparing literal prophecies that Muslims claim with prophecies that Christian scholars, ourselves here as well, say are typology. So this is not actually being consistent.
Yeah. Well, David, do you have anything? I got some slides on this too, but if you want, it looked like you were about to say something, David.
Oh, just yeah, just I mean, guys, have you ever seen, if you were asking a Christian, hey, give me some prophecies about Jesus in the Old Testament, would you have gone to those examples as if you were asking for actual predictive prophecies
No.
of Jesus?
No.
I've never seen one Christian go to those verses as predictive prophecies. So yeah, as IP just pointed out, we're dealing with prophecies. We're not making the kind of claim that Muslims are making with those verses, right? So they're already making a completely different kind of claim. But yeah, when Christians are using Christians are saying Jesus fulfills these things in a bunch of different ways. I mean, if you just take like the the Passover and so on, and the blood of the lamb being on the doorpost and stuff, it's not like it's saying, oh, and there's going to come along and there's going to be a guy who actually is like this and so on. But you look at it, and it's like, oh, I see how that's the fulfillment of something.
Yes.
And you have others like that with Abraham and Isaac, and hey, sacrifice your son. And Abraham says, okay. And then, no, don't sacrifice your son, but God's going to provide a lamb. It's not like it's saying, I mean, that you could say, he says God's going to provide a lamb. So that you could say that's a prophecy about something that's going to happen and so on. But with the father son issue and so on, and then it's like you can see how Jesus would be viewed as the fulfillment. So anyway, yeah, he doesn't seem to understand. He thinks exactly like a Muslim thinks about fulfilled prophecies, and then he's projecting that view onto anything we say Jesus fulfilled. And the only other thing I wanted to point out is, like, with Jesus, when you're giving like the long lists of fulfilled of how he fulfilled these Old Testament passages, it's also like a cumulative case. It's like you have all these different threads and issues and themes that are going along in the Old Testament. It's like, wow, this guy lines up with all of these things. And it's like, why would this one guy be the fulfillment of actual predictive prophecies and like tie up all these interesting threads that start in the Old Testament? And so when you see the list, here's a list, and Jesus fulfilled these in a bunch of different ways, and it's a big cumulative case. And he's treating any individual thing on that list, any individual verse on that list, as if we're saying, you see, this predicts Jesus is going to come as the Messiah, and this is identifying him. And I've never seen one Christian arguing that, but he sounds to his audience like that's what we're arguing. And I'm just laying this down as a rule. If you say, hey, this is what they're arguing, and I've never heard one person argue that, probably got a problem. Sounds like a straw man.
Real quick. I'm not saying Christians have never done that. Maybe they have. I agree with David. I've not really seen it. But if that's the case, again, he said in his video originally he was going to take the best arguments. He's not doing that now. He's finding fringe fundamentalist views. He's not even going to like the scholars for this. How do Christians understand? Like that's problem. But yeah, go ahead.
That's what I was just going to bring up. Reminder of that timestamp at the 23-minute mark in this video.
Right.
Where he says, sure. Wait, no, it's not that one. Sorry. In the OG video, 4-minute. When I make videos like this, I endeavor to provide you with the best versions of the argument I can, given my understanding.
Right.
So yes, this list of 300 plus prophecies, scholarship doesn't treat it this way. Okay, this is not the best version of the argument. Actually, really quickly, I actually found the, where is it? I found the thingy that he got this from. The thingy thing. Here you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that list. Yeah,
This list. Okay, can you just try to use relevant scholarship instead of like the stuff that's easy to target? Like, Mike, do we need to just start addressing our atheism instead of like Paul Draper?
Yes. Yeah, we'll start saying that, you know, Graham Oppie, Paul Draper, who is that? No. The best arguments for atheism are on Reddit, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Let's
go to
just
our
do that.
atheism and I'm gonna quote Skeptic 420.
There we go. That works. Yeah, it's kind of how this feels.
Yeah, and so Mike, you already kind of covered some of this stuff. So, just citing some other scholarship here, biblical interpretation in ancient Israel. As is well known, the term typology sees persons, events, or places, prototype, pattern, or figure of historical persons, events, or places that follow in time. Although significant and diverse examples are already known from the ancient Near Eastern sources, we have examples of this in Josephus and even from literature in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're commonly employed in ancient and in the ancient rabbis as well, in the formulation of a manual in Rome. And the main point I'm trying to bring up here is like, this isn't a Christian invention. Like, what you find in the New Testament is not the writers just manipulating the text in a dishonest way to force Jesus into prophecy or not interpret things as a Jew at the time would have. We have internal biblical evidence of this. We have the Moses like traditions, the Davidic typology, the Exodus one, as that's paradigmatic. I mean, just look at Joshua when the Jordan gets split so they can cross, and then they hearken back to the Exodus as a type of this pattern. Right. If you want to see how this is applied in the New Testament, one example is Dale Allison's Matthean typology. In the Second Temple period, again in the Qumran scrolls, we have all sorts of examples of this. In this particular work, it's just highlighting again how you have Pesher, which is an example of interpreting the Old Testament in light of your current events to find a hidden meaning in it. But this wasn't people saying like, hey, this made a prediction. For instances of Dead Sea Scroll material where this is happening, I just highlighted all the different places you can find that. Other places, Sirach, Jewish, I'm not going to go through all this just for the sake of time. First Enoch has, and tons more. So fulfillment when it comes to this is a type, not a predictive prophecy. Did he cover Psalm 40?
Think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know of any scholars that reference Psalm 40 to the Matthew and John passages. If anything, Matthew 4:17 actually invokes Isaiah 9, and John 18 doesn't invoke any prophecy. For Psalm 40, verse 1, the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the realities themselves. And then the author supports this by citing Psalm 40:6-7. And he says, therefore, when Christ came into the world, he said, citing that passage. All that's happening here is the author of Hebrews is drawing on the Septuagintal reading of this passage where it says, a body you prepared for me. And he's just interpreting this as a declaration that Jesus is the paradigm of ultimate obedience. Yeah. That's all that's happening. So when they say Jesus fulfilled this, they're not saying it's a predictive prophecy. It's a typological fulfillment.
And again, if we're going to be consistent, I agree with David. I've not seen Christians go, oh, Psalm 40, haha, therefore Jew convert to Christianity. But Muslims will go to places like Song of Solomon 5:16 or John 1. And they'll be like, you see this line right here? This is a reason you should become a Muslim because this is a literal prophecy of Muhammad. And it's like, you've done this like 1,000 times. It's like, this is not comparable. So no, Vice Rhino is not being consistent.
And by the way, John, that passage in John 1, that is one of their top two from the New Testament, right? So John 14:16, that's their number one. The passage from John 1:19-21 is their number two argument.
Yeah, pretty powerful stuff there. So All right, let me get to some super chats. Did you have something else you want to show, Than? Or you're just getting your video
No, I'm
ready?
good.
Okay. All right. Let's get to some of these here. Hey guys, I'm having a little trouble understanding a verse translation in Deuteronomy 22. The Septuagint refers to the girl as a child virgin. I've heard this is an argument that God once allowed child marriage. Okay, well, no, it doesn't. We got to be very careful with Septuagint readings. Sometimes they're not perfect. And I want Joel Correcco to help us do a video on that passage itself when he has time. Told him I would pay him to help us write a script on that. So when we get time, we're going to do more on that. Specifically, we're going to argue this is not like marry your rapist stuff. But no, I do not think this is child marriage. Think that's relying too much on the Septuagint and not the Hebrew, which I don't think is good to go.
Also, you got an issue because you've got this is Deuteronomy, so this is this is the retelling of the law, and you've got the parallel in Exodus, and you should make sure your understanding lines up with that.
Good point. Yeah. Bukhari 5733, diarrhea equals martyrdom. Let me pull it up. I pulled it up and I didn't get a chance to read it. The prophet said, he, a Muslim who dies of an abdominal disease is a martyr, and he who dies of a plague is a martyr. Powerful. See you guys.
The background here is, Muhammad became obsessed with martyrdom and glorifying martyrdom. And so you had all these guys who are charging out into battle to become martyrs, and they all want to be martyrs because the martyrs get the best rewards and stuff. And but my son Abdullah, he died of an abdominal disease. He didn't get to be if someone dies of abdominal disease, he's a martyr. He just tried to gave all these extra things that qualify you as a martyr.
Is there any logic to this? That
what? Than, what have we told you about Islam?
No
logic.
I'm not asking because I'm expecting logic at this point. I just really want to hear the argument for how having diarrhea makes you a martyr. I want to hear it.
The devil hides in the bum? I don't know.
Menabel Zoot gave you diarrhea.
Anyone remember that part of the Injil where Jesus stabbed himself with an arrow and then sent Satan into an infinite death loop? Is this a hadith?
What is this?
Maybe he's just trolling. Maybe he's just trying, that's part of the uncorrupted Injil. I'm the uncorrupted Injil. I've never uttered this. Therefore, that's not in the uncorrupted Injil. How dare you? When the Minecraft live stream with Alex O'Connor, when's the Minecraft live stream with Alex O'Connor where you beat the Ender Dragon? Who wouldn't watch that? Break the internet. Yeah, Fan, get that going.
Alex, Alex,
what's an Ender Dragon?
The Ender Dragon?
Yeah.
It's like the final boss of Minecraft, basically.
There's a final
guys, chat. I'm telling you right now, if you guys can get Alex O'Connor to agree to that, I will do that so fast.
Do the work. The last super chat didn't count, so here's another. Also, do you believe atheist strawmanning constantly is a sign of a disadvantage on their part? Can be a sign,
Yeah, it depends on the atheist.
Yeah. D Wood is here. My leather straps are satisfied. But Vice Rhino is going to watch this and not know what that means.
Ha! Hey, Vice Rhino, and if you don't know what that means, what else do you not know?
Yes. So if you're watching, bro, Google the eyes or the leather strap of the anus, and then we'll have
or you can just look up Sunan Abu Dawud 203, and it'll pop right up on sunnah.com.
Powerful. I feel like fundamentalists are more harmful than helpful to the kingdom, like 95% of atheists or so, because they were fundies. Not sure about the statistical numbers, but I get what you mean. Yeah, it's a problem, and that's why we've tried to combat fundamentalism as much as we can. Hey, IP, it's crazy what atheists are willing to do against Christianity. Also, was the church authoritative during the first century because before the canon of scripture was realized in the late 300s or not? Well, yeah, the church is authoritative and always
they're just fishing for your denomination.
That doesn't give it away.
Do you affirm the Pope before the canon of scripture?
I mean, like,
you affirm the infallibility of the Pope when he
No.
before the canon of Scripture.
I mean, even if you hold to sola scriptura, you don't say that the Scripture is the only authority. Theologians that hold to sola scriptura will say that the church has authority. It's just there's a debate about how much, when to apply it, all these things. So,
Yeah.
like, you should have been more careful in the question. That gives away literally nothing. D. Wood, the great Zutter Neuter. I read that wrong.
No one knows what's about to come out, IP, do they?
No, they do not.
I
No.
don't either.
Oh man.
Let's
I
just
told
say,
you before the
guys.
stream.
Let's just say, guys, the story of Al Zut
Oh yeah.
is about to get way dialed up,
Yeah, I guess so.
and Dawah will never recover, just as Muhammad never recovered. Just as Muhammad never recovered from the night of
Oh.
Al Zut, so
We-
also Dawah will never recover from the night of Al Zut once we explain it more.
I'm gonna tell David off stream. I'll tell you my idea that I pitched to Mike before the stream.
I LOL'd at that guy when I said David Wood got squashed by Daniel. Oh yeah, the
That was
Muslim
funny.
yeah, the Muslim.
Stop.
If it is true that Al Zut hadith is them giving Momo the same amount of 30 men, would that void the argument of embarrassment and make the hadith weaker? Maybe. We will have to see. I don't know. We got to look more into that. Thoughts on Jay Schmidt's best argument for atheism?
I haven't paid attention to Joe Schmidt in a while. I'm gonna be with him next month too.
Okay. Well,
So
ask him then.
Yeah.
Oh, one
David.
second. Hey, 1 second on that question about the principle of embarrassment. So the reason for treating this story as based on something that happened sounds like a pretty embarrassing story, right? And so that would be the principle of embarrassment. Principle of embarrassment is not the only principle.
Right.
If it's actually connected to a bunch of other things that make sense of the story, that wouldn't make it weaker. You would just it would be based on more than the principle of embarrassment. Like it would now you're talking about like coherence and things like that, and explanatory scope and explanatory power and things like that, which would actually make it more compelling. But you can add that to the embarrassment of like, why did they keep this story once all those connections sort of got dropped? Because you don't see these connections emphasized anywhere. But anyway, it's like, oh, if you've got this kind of mystery and all of a sudden, now we've solved the mystery and it's been there all along, right there, hiding in the sources. That doesn't make it weaker. That makes it stronger.
Exactly. Yeah. So David in ref to Reist out Vinny over here. He's Winger's cousin. Therefore, he's also a total nerd. It makes sense.
He does have a Mike Winger vibe.
Powerful. Probably just ruined his whole day now. Thank you, David, for your attention and massive patience as we bombard you with questions and opinions for 3 hours. As for the tangerines, sold out. That's Tony Masters. He was handing out tangerines throughout New York.
Yeah, for like 3 days straight. He came. It was funny. He came up the last time to standing with a group of people. And I was like, man, nobody wants your nasty tangerine.
Guys, we are all wrong. Muhammad is prophesied in scripture in Matthew 24:11. Yes, about false prophets. Yes. In all seriousness, no, still waiting for proof of the Injil. I am the uncorrupted Injil, sir.
What's the
proof is
Injil?
right here. Yeah,
Hey, IP.
Uh-huh.
You've studied the Islamic dilemma,
Mm-hmm.
and now you've seen several rounds of Muslim responses to the Islamic dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw in Times Square Muslims trying to respond to the Islamic dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked up to a Dawah booth and asked Muslims about the Islamic dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen anything that gives you the slightest indication that they even have a hope of answering this argument?
Nope. Nada.
I've been at this for about a month and I haven't seen anything. Half the time I'm wondering if they actually get it.
No, you and me both. Oh my gosh, every time. I was just replying to a Muslim on TikTok, and he tried to argue, oh, we can get out of the Islamic dilemma by saying your scriptures have been corrupted.
Oh,
That's the Islamic dilemma. You just took the second horn of the dilemma. Like that's you obviously don't get it if you think that's what you can do.
that was powerful.
Muslims have rights, the rights to remain silence based. He's a nerd. Vice Rhino is an anagram for Eric Hovind. Aha! Is that real? Wait a minute.
I'm actually trying to figure that out. My brain can't do that right now.
I think it might work. Yeah. Holy crap.
Correct number of letters.
Yeah.
Like the first thing I did was count the letters.
I'll just ask ChatGPT quick.
I think, yeah, holy crap. Oh no. Wait. I think there needs no. Oh man, it kind of does look like it. Find it
No,
out.
it is. It works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. We've never seen the two of them in a room together.
Oh,
Thank you, Loaves of Bread, for this powerful insight. New conspiracy just dropped,
yeah, it
guys.
works.
Hey, I'll say we have more evidence that Vice Rhino is Eric Hovind than we have that Muhammad is the fulfillment of John 1.
Yeah, now what? Gabriel says, God bless the IP team for all your work. Thank you. On the subject of prophecy, how do you guys correlate Jeremiah 33, 17, 18 with Jesus? It doesn't seem like Jesus himself is fur-filled. This seems important, like an important prophecy. Why
No
would
one's
that-
arguing that Jesus was fur-filled. I've not seen one person ever in my entire life claim that Jesus fur-filled.
For thus says the
Any-
Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel, and the Levitical priest shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings, to burn grain offerings, and to make sacrifices forever.
That seems like Jesus would be a prime candidate for fulfilling that prophecy. If there's going to, if there's always going to be a son of David on the throne, then that either means you have an endless succession or you got one person who's always on the throne, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe he's focusing on the other aspect, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not even entirely sure about where to apply this. Again, this is the difference between how we look at prophecy versus the way Muslims do. Like Muslims will look at this and go like, "Oh, perfect," and we go, "Well, I mean, it's vague. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. A lot of that stuff is hyperbolic too. Like you read Joel talking about how wine will flow down from the mountains. I mean, it's hyperbolic eschatological language. That could be the same thing here. All right, I'm gonna play a little bit more of this video, and yeah, let's play a little more of this video. Then Than is gonna preview his upcoming video because you guys met our super chat goal. So I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, and then we'll get to that.
Blasphemous. Navigating life being worried about trivial bullshit like this sucks the joy out of what should be just fun moments.
Yeah, and most Christians don't suffer from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He's saying, like,
do we
that's
lack
what-
joy? Are we sitting around in a panic mode or something like that? Oh my goodness!
He seems thinks so.
Yeah, that's like dude, if you're an atheist and you just sit around moaning and wailing about the meaninglessness of life all day long, going, why? There's no point. Why am I here? Why am I here? There are atheists like that, but you just, toss that out there like, that's what atheists are doing. And hey, wouldn't it be better if you just dropped all that and had purpose?
Right. Yeah, it's oversimplifying, and I see no evidence in sociological research that's the case. The Christians.
I mean, just imagine sitting around as an atheist all day going, oh, what's the dorkiest tie I could possibly find? I mean, imagine, why are all atheists like that?
So the ability to just enjoy the fun moments of life is something that is lost if you take Pascal up on his wager and become a Christian just in case it's true. Now, when we come back into his video, I will have inserted a super chat from later in their stream that serves to make a similar point to this, so I did want to address that here.
I'm fine if you want to answer in a different video. It is a sin to euthanize at old age, and as you're losing the ability to care for yourself if you don't have money or family to take care of you. That is an interesting argument. I totally see the logic in it, to die peacefully in old age. I think there needs to be moral justifications for it though. Like, so you're like, like you're on your last leg kind of thing possibly. But I also do have some objections to it because I worry about the ramifications of that and how far that would go, how that's going to pragmatically play out in society. Like, we don't want to end up like what's kind of going on with Canada right now, where people are euthanizing because they're depressed, and there are companies forming to help you do it. That's a dystopian nightmare.
Or Soylent Green,
utilitarian kind of view.
So that's Soylent Green, yeah. I get what you mean, yeah.
which I would kind of outright reject.
Yeah, and I think on virtue ethics, I would say there's still no reason you're not going to increase in virtue in those last few moments. Why deny that?
So there we go. This is actually way more important than anything I've discussed so far. Someone comes to the end of their life and they reach a point where medical assistance in dying seems to be a better option for them than to continue living in pain with no friends or family to care for them. And rather than just being a decision that has you looking at your actual life experience in the here and now, Christianity has people wondering if this would count as suicide, thus sending them to hell for not wanting to live in pain. Now,
Than, David, do you guys believe suicide necessarily sends you to hell?
No.
That is again him demonstrating.
That wasn't even the question we got asked.
Yeah,
the question we were asked is it a sin? You know what could be a synonym for the word sin here, guys? Is it wrong? Which is a question that atheists can ask themselves too.
Right. And the thing is that if you actually study, the sin that sends you to hell is not suicide, it's despair. This is taught in Anglicans, Lutherans, Orthodox Church places it as the 8th deadly sin. It's in the Catholic Church as well. It's despair. But mental health issues that can cause suicide don't necessarily send you to hell. The church the church has never made proclamations on who is in hell. They won't even say if Judas is in hell because we don't know. That's for God to judge. So this sweeping generalization you get from fundamentalism doesn't represent mainstream Christianity. And again, completely misses our point. We've never said suicide sends you to hell. This was actually a story from Martin Luther. Is that there was a kid who committed suicide. He went and dug up the grave and because they buried him on the side of the road. And he was like, the kid had mental health issues. Reburied him in the church graveyard because he's like, this doesn't mean he's going to hell. Founder of Protestantism. I mean, come on, like it's just kind of an absurd misrepresentation. Yeah. But much more complicated issue. But again, you can even have the sin of despair and not necessarily even go to hell. If there's, again, the church does not make those kind of proclamations because the church is not the judge.
Now, the medical assistance in dying laws in Canada are by no means ideal, and yes, there have been situations where people have applied because of poverty rather than because of medical issues, but that's something that would be mitigated with a robust social safety net, which I think we should absolutely, beef that up a little. As to the companies forming, I have no idea what he's talking about there. Medical assistance in dying is something that you apply to the government for, and it takes place in hospitals. But
yeah, so what I was actually thinking of was this video I saw. Did you guys see this video a couple of years ago? Someone was actually, it was a video of somebody who wanted to do this, to commit medical suicide. So let me just play this. This was actually played by a company called Simon's. Why is this?
Last breaths are sacred. When I imagine my final days, I see bubbles. I see the ocean. I see music. Even now, as I seek help to end my life, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
Yeah, so she committed suicide with the help of the government, which is some of the most dystopian crap I've ever seen. But in terms of companies specifically, there are companies that are basically doing this. So here's one that I'm keeping in mind, they're working on suicide pods. Yeah, maker of suicide pod plans to launch in Switzerland. I didn't need to take that down. Put that up. Sometimes StreamYard gets kind of weird like that. Okay.
That is straight out of Soylent Green, except they eat them. Right.
Yeah. Like companies can benefit, and then they would be, trying to, if their goal is to sell suicide pods, they would benefit from more people getting in the suicide pods. Therefore, they would have an incentive to get more people in suicide pods. That's dystopian.
Yeah. If you, I mean, just think, if you are the maker of the suicide pod and that's your business ain't going to be booming if you sell 2 of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in business to sell as many of those things as possible. It would be how you make money, right?
Right.
So in other words, it's like the drug companies at their worst. Like they actually benefit from people needing this stuff and misusing this stuff and getting addicted to pills and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
And they push it. Doctors, give more pain pills, give more pain pills, give more pain pills. And people get addicted, and eventually they can't get enough pain pills, and they turn to heroin, and then they OD and stuff like this. And these are the guys getting them addicted and stuff. So don't act like this crap doesn't happen, guys.
Yeah, and it can happen if we start, normalizing suicide, like assisted suicide with the government. More companies would form that would have stock in the market that would increase based on the more people committing suicide, similar to what we see with like private prisons and the crap that comes with that. More people go to prison, the more their stock goes up, the more they benefit. Same thing with the medical stuff David was talking about. Same thing. Like there are ramifications of going down this path that I don't think a lot of secularists have actually considered. And those need to be taken into account, how far this goes. Just saying, well, we need a robust safety net isn't the solution, because government can be just as corrupt. I mean, like we're seeing, could you imagine if like the Groypers got power and assisted suicide was a norm already in a country when they got power? Like that'd be dystopian. I mean, like we got to be careful with the more we move away from Christian doctrines, the idea that life is sacred. And again, we live in a pretty good time where, like, I've had grandparents that have passed away. They didn't go in pain because now there's so much pain medication. You just give them a bunch of morphine. They die peacefully without assisted suicide. So there's a little bit more taking into this. It's not like there's not a lot of cases of people that are going to be dying like it was like 200, 300 years ago.
Yeah, and don't act like over time there wouldn't be more and more pressure on old people.
Yeah.
See, you're such a burden on society and your families. Why not end it peacefully? And that's the brave and honorable thing to do, so that you're not a burden. And on anyone with any sort of disease or disability or anything. You don't want to just be a burden on other people in society. So the good and noble thing for you to do is step into the suicide pod.
I was gonna say I'm not trying to make a slippery slope argument here, but this just seems like a pathway to eugenics.
Yeah, definitely. Indisputably.
Yeah. Now Vice Rhino does say in his video things like, well, I'm not so sure how far this could go. Like, he seems to be more in agreement with us. Like, he's not willing to say, yeah, suicide pods are great. Like, he's not saying that. I want to be very clear. He seems to be, but like, what's the same problem? Like, why can't we do that? I'm confused about why
because we think that there's a God that is invested in the actions of the creatures he loves.
Yeah, it's what you don't want to be worried about that at the end of your, like, dude, from an atheist perspective, why would you care what people are worried? What's it matter if someone's worried? Oh my goodness, you're going to be worried before death. Why is that some big issue?
You're still going to be worried, even as an atheist.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could not be as an atheist, and you could not be as a Christian too. Like, this is just oversimplifying. Like, somehow if you remove theism, you're going to be less worried, and that's just oversimplifying. But I want to play one more section because he actually, I was impressed. He actually watched a debate I recommended.
So I'm not bothering with the Krauss debate, but I did watch through the Zuckerman debate, and it was mostly.
He watched my debate with Phil Zuckerman. Respect, appreciate that. Should probably watch it again. I don't think you got my main arguments, but okay.
Just the two of you.
Well, I was too busy picking out my new tie.
What are you saying?
Bro.
What? I said I was too busy picking out my new tie.
Mostly just the two of you talking past each other. I feel like it was mostly due to it not being clearly established what the topic meant. The topic was, which is better for humanity, Christianity or secularism? Mike pointed out early on that he is not advocating for Christian theocracy. He simply believes that societies that are based on Christian values, where the majority of the population identifies as Christian, are better societies.
By Christian societies, I mean societies that are based on Christian values, and the majority of the population identifies as Christian, regardless of governmental laws. And by secular societies, I mean societies that are based on secular values, and the majority of the people identify as secular atheists. And I want to be clear, I'm not arguing for theocracy or any type of government. This is about the nature of different societies, not governments.
But then he goes on to list a bunch of secular values, like the separation of church and state, and claim that they are actually Christian because they originated in Christian societies. The whole idea.
Okay. First of all, this is what I mean about not getting the point of the debate. That was not even, I don't even think that was in my opening statement. That was like one of the points I just brought up in the rebuttal briefly. My main, and if we were talking past each other, it's because Phil Zuckerman didn't prepare. Like, I read 2 of his books. I prepared. He did not. Same with the Krause debate, same kind of issue. But like, again, going back to my slides, yes, the separation of church and state is a Christian value. That's not even disputed among experts here. So positive feelings towards natural philosophy may inadvertently have been fostered by the Christian attitude towards the state, exemplified in Jesus' call to render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's and render to God the things that are God's. Although many Christian churchmen, such as St. Augustine, proclaim the superiority of the church over the state, the Christian church did acknowledge and accept the separation of church and state, which allowed for the development of a secular-oriented natural philosophy. And here's for David: in medieval Islam, by contrast, truly secular government was absent and the church and state were one. So yeah, long before secularists, Christians were developing a robust distinction between separation of church and state. Don't like that?
It was atheists.
It was atheist. No. Tom Holland, who is an atheist, says, interestingly, the separation of church and state was an upheaval manifest across the whole of Christendom. Wherever a priest was called upon to minister to the laity, even in the humblest, the most isolated village, there the impact of reformatio could be felt. The establishment of the Roman Church as something more than merely a first among equals, the general forum of the clergy in all churches, gave clerics across the Latin West a common identity that they had not previously possessed. Here's a great book. I'm not going to read this, but Augustine goes through, starts to develop it in his own works, and then it manifests in the Protestant Reformation more fully. This is being developed through the Christian tradition. It's a secular value, but it's because secularists took it from the Christian tradition, modified it in the ways they want, and then they pretended it was never a Christian value.
Mm-hmm.
Utter nonsense.
Isn't that what they did with science?
Yeah, same thing. That's what actually Edward Grant is kind of, he's not saying that directly in this book, but he's saying, yeah, the foundations of modern science is a lot of Christian doctrines. That's what's going on in this book. But I mean, Tom Holland says secularism owes its existence to the medieval papacy. Humanism derives ultimately from the claims made in the Bible.
Wait
so
a
like
minute. So you agree with the papacy, IP?
Absolutely, obviously, because I quoted Holland on it, and he must too, as well as an atheist. But I mean, yeah, this is stuff I have addressed numerous times. Human rights, again, Christian value, as Samuel Moyne notes. I mean, just to pretend that separation of church and state is just a secular value and didn't come from the Christian tradition is just ahistorical nonsense. The reason it exists as a secular value is because you guys took it from the Christian tradition, but it is a Christian value for sure.
So what we're saying here is that atheism and secularism are parasitic. They can't exist without sucking the lifeblood out of the massive shark that is Christianity, swimming boldly through the ocean. And you've got this atheist parasite sucking the blood of the shark and going, oh, look how fast we're moving through the water. Yeah, because you're stuck to the side of a shark, dummy. Something like that.
I mean, I said it in better terms in my debate with Phil Zuckerman and my debate with Krause.
You didn't say it better than I just said it.
Fair point. I'll give you that. But I mean, like I don't know why Vice Rhino thought the separation of church and state was my main argument. It wasn't. My 3 main arguments in that debate, I made more in the Krause debate, was secularism leads to less community cohesion through lowering volunteer rates and charity, community cohesion. It also leads to more authoritarianism, the erosion of human rights, and it reduces birth rates to the abysmally low level that causes societal collapse.
And yeah, so I mean that last point you just said, interestingly, is what paves the way for Islam. That's one of the biggest reasons secularism paves the way for Islam. And then you got this guy going, man, Muslims, they got better arguments than Christians. He's like, oh, let's dial up how we're paving the way for Islam. What is this, man? What is this stuff?
That would be a nightmare, a total nightmare.
It would be.
Yeah. So yeah,
I just had a guy at my gym this morning who was an atheist. Tell me, like, Than, if there's anything that I'm going to agree with you on, it's that Christianity is good because, and he told me it's because it's what keeps Islam at bay.
Yep. Dawkins said it in 2010 before almost any of these other guys caught on to it. that he has mixed feelings about the decline of Christianity because it may be a bulwark against something else. And
All right, last clip I'm going to play, and then I'm going to talk about this ridiculous title of his video.
Idea of secularism is that religion is a private affair and as such has no place in the government that is supposed to represent all of its people. So how separation of church and state could possibly be an explicitly Christian value rather than a secular one is just beyond me. To be
Study history, man. Study the books I gave you.
clear, I am not saying that it can't be a Christian value. This isn't an either or here.
What?
Oh, I just wanted to point out, because you pointed out all the a bunch of negative consequences of secular societies. Just want to point out the one more glaring negative feature of secular societies: lack of gratitude. Complete lack of gratitude. Christians hand you all this stuff and you're like, hey, you guys are all evil. We invented this. My goodness.
I know. I'm sick of it.
There can be value overlap between worldviews, but also, given the behavior of many of the American Christians in government, it certainly is not a universal Christian value. Whereas it is a fundamental value of secularism. There is no secularism without separation of church and state.
Yeah, except we see the same thing on the other side. Secularists trying to force secularism onto us. And that when you say keep religion out of government, what you're saying is I want you to enforce my atheistic values in society.
But I won't call it a religion. It's my ideology that I want impose, my ideology and my ethics that I want imposed on everyone.
Yeah. Like let me give a simple example, like divorce laws. Like it's impossible to keep religion out of how you're going to legislate. Politics trickles down from culture, but culture often trickles down from religion. Divorce laws. Religious people are going to think family cohesion, keeping families together, is more important than individual choices. They're going to they can have divorce laws, but they're going to make the divorce harder. Whereas seculars tend to favor more like individualism, more so. They're more likely to make divorce easier. Like something like that. Like, so you're asking an impossibility when you say Christians need to keep their religion out of politics. You're basically saying just legislate like I want you to. But it's like our values that we get from politics come from our culture, which trickle down from religion. It's going to be absolutely impossible to never think about certain things you get from religion or secularism that's going to influence your politics. But Christianity does a pretty good job of having at least a separation of church and state that's going to be lacking in like Islam or Eastern religions that did not develop in the same way.
I wish you'd give some stats on like Christians being in favor or opposed to separation of church and state, or at least something other than like, hey man, here are the vibes.
Well, that's also hard because if you just call 1,000 people, do you agree with the separation of church and state? Like,
right, exactly.
It's going to mean something different every person. Like you might get a radical like Trump supporter like, I'm against it, because he's thinking of it as it's defined by like Democrats and not like how it actually is understood in Christian heritage. So, all right, you want to play this video because we said that they got us enough super chats, we'd play this video. So you want to play a segment of it?
Sure. I'll just
Why is your screen look weird?
I don't.
Oh, you look weird.
Yeah.
It's
also Than, you should change your name because it looks like Than. It looks like you're hey, I'm brother Than Smith, and it's like, dude, you don't even know basic grammar, but you're not saying that. It's like,
what do you want me to change my name to?
Thanos.
Oh yeah, I'll do that next time.
Make it holier than thou.
Mike, what do I have to press to make it look better?
F1. Looks fine. It's fine now. Just hit play.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Make your name
Who exactly
smarter
was Jesus?
than
Was
you.
he always divine, God from the start, mysteriously taking on flesh? Or was he a remarkable human, chosen and elevated to divine status because of his extraordinary virtue and obedience? Was Jesus always God, or was he elevated to divine status? Today, many modern voices argue the answer to this question is adoptionism, a view that the earliest followers of Jesus saw him not as eternally divine, but as someone who earned his divine title later, maybe at his baptism or even at his resurrection. Could this adoptionist view actually reflect the earliest Christian beliefs, And if so, what does this mean for your understanding of who Jesus truly is? Some early voices offered an answer that today might surprise you. They suggested Jesus started his journey as a remarkable yet fully human teacher, someone who exemplified obedience and righteousness so profoundly that God chose to elevate him. They believed that at his baptism or resurrection, Jesus became the Son of God, not by nature, but by divine adoption. Central to the adoptionist claims is Romans 1:3-4, where Paul writes concerning Jesus, who was appointed the Son of God. Do you want me to stop there? Or keep going? You're in charge, Mike. What do I do, boss?
Just do another 30 seconds, man.
Okay.
Fine.
God in power according to the Spirit of holiness by his resurrection. The Greek word translated for appointed here is horizo. Some scholars like Bart Ehrman argue that Paul's use of horizo indicates a moment when Jesus transitioned into divine sonship, implying Jesus was not intrinsically divine from birth, but rather became divine at his resurrection. Ehrman further suggests that Paul's phrase, Son of God in power, specifically highlights a shift in status. Jesus, once human. All right.
Cool. So yeah, that's currently live for all Patreon donors. The donor link is below. If you sign up to donate, you'll get access to that video now as Than destroys Bart Ehrman.
I refuted.
Obliterates him. Exactly.
Bart Ehrman is too strong.
Yes. I was prepared because I debated the Hebrew Israelite yesterday, David. I was like, I might need to use these. And of course, these arguments he didn't even bring up those because they were so bad of arguments. I didn't even have to use that kind of stuff. But yeah. Excellent. All right, let's get to some super chats here. David Wood, so how can I contact you about translating the book about Islamic dilemma to Finnish for free?
Well, you'd have to wait until it's done.
There you go.
But yeah,
Wait till it's done.
Yeah.
The Old Testament authors painted a picture of the Messiah. Jesus is what they were painting. That's the typological understanding. Yeah, but I wouldn't really use that as like. It'd be very hard to make that kind of argument. It has to be very, very thorough. Not what we got in today's video.
Yeah, I feel like you would have to have inspiration and your background knowledge to even try to make that argument.
Yeah, good point. Just adding to this amazing ministry. Thank you. Appreciate it. Does this mean that the devil was a martyr since he had gas issues when the call to prayer happens, David?
You can make that case. He had some stomach problems, but he didn't die from it, so presumably.
Look what God can do. He can do anything but fail. Powerful. IP, will you respond to the skeptics agnostics attempt at a refutation of monarchical Trinitarianism model? I'll take a look at it. I don't even know who that is. In your recent debate in the UK with the British humanist, you came very prepared and he did not. What is with atheists thinking that they don't have to prepare for debate? I don't know, man. I wish I understood it. This is like the third time in a row this seems to have happened. But I don't know what to do. It's kind of annoying because I would like to have a little bit more like, pushback, but unfortunately, I'm not getting it. So, I mean, maybe they don't care as much.
This is one of the reasons I was actually like at the very least thankful for Vice Rhino because he actually tried to interact with the sociological stuff.
That's why we were happy to do it. We're happy when this thing happened. We get more conversation stuff going. And again, he wants to come on. Let's do it. But let's stop with these insane clickbait titles here that we got going. Oh, I got to move this super chat. You guys can't see it. Defending Christianity by complaining about Islam. Like, yeah, that did not happen. So, not sure what the point of that is. We're just gonna lie, so to speak, about what we were actually doing. I don't know. Maybe it's just trying to get views.
Yeah, it's a response to you, Vice Rhino. But I mean, for context, we talk about Islam a lot. Our community wants to hear us talk about that, and it came up in your video. So
Yeah, we talk about it. Get used to it. Can we get a Zoot Zoot t-shirt?
Zoot.
David is thinking.
I don't know if that's a reference to the train, like the zoot zoot, or other people were can I get a zoot zoot? So I don't know which zoot this is this is referring to.
Do a double entendre.
I was thinking of like a Zoot Patrol or something like that.
In contemporary times, can one legitimately identify as a Gnostic Christian and be a believer? I do not think so. If we're going on what the Gnostics actually believed, because they rejected a lot of Christian doctrines, especially like the atonement. You know. I promise I wasn't asking to get your denomination. Reason I asked the question about church authorities that my friends think they have the same authority as the apostles in first century church. They do not. That is absurd. That is absurd. They do not.
Unless they're really based.
Yeah, you gotta be really based.
How big is their beard?
Yeah, how big is their beard? Is it 2 fists long? Super based. That's an Islam reference for anyone watching. If we really think about it, Muhammad is the best moral example because Allah wants us to sin. Jesus didn't sin, yet Allah says he'll replace those who don't sin. You see, he got replaced on the cross. Powerful. Yeah, for those who don't know, there's a verse on the Quran where Allah says, if you had not have sinned, Allah would have destroyed you and made people who did sin so that you would ask for Allah's forgiveness. But the Quran also says Jesus didn't sin. So he's going against the actual plans and desires of Allah.
That's a hadith about if you didn't sin.
Oh, sorry.
But it's Muhammad. It's Sahih, so just as good.
Just as good. Just as good. Very interested in Operation Reconquista by Redum Zemer. What do you think about it? As a non-denominational right now, I want to be a part of it, but I'm not sure of what church. Well, if you want to be a part of it, you have to join like one of the liberal denominations that used to be conservative, get in one of those churches, and then try to change it from within. That's his Reconquista, reclaiming the Protestant denomination. So you got to join like PC USA, for example, or like the ELCA, and then try to fix it from within. That's his goal. Diarrhea making martyrs gives new meaning to he's running. Gross. Did Constantine bishops decide what was orthodox and what was burned and what not? I see spiritualists say this a lot, but I've heard otherwise. No, they did not decide what was orthodox. They confirmed the beliefs that the church had up to that point and just gave it informal language. It's not like there was like multiple views and they just, picked the ones they liked. They were just confirming what the church had already taught, and that's what they were called to do. Why do you not have AP on? Because I thought he was busy. I thought wasn't he doing something this week? I thought he was busy this weekend.
AP's live right now, man.
Oh, he is?
Oh,
yeah. Right when I was going live with you guys, I got a message from him. Hey, join me live. And I'm like, I'm already live with IP.
Well, we'll finish this up so you can go over there.
What if I want to go to sleep instead? Didn't even think about that. No one ever thinks about the dizzle.
Why don't you just sleep on the stream?
There you go.
I can do that too.
Any book recommendation?
But you get all these Dawah perverts want to watch me sleep.
Gosh.
They follow me. They stalk me everywhere else. So why not?
Check out the book Christian Ethics 4 Views. That's a good book on virtue ethics to start, as well as Jesus and Virtue Ethics. That's a good book as well. Paul and Virtue Ethics. It's a good book. Thoughts on? I don't know what this is. Do you know what this is?
That would be Schwarzenau, but I don't know what that refers to, brethren.
Yeah, I don't know. David, what's the best winger joke?
Well, actually, the best one I probably never did. It was when what was that conference out in California? Like Craig spoke at it.
ETS.
You were speaking there, wasn't it? The one was
Sound
that after
Faith
ETS?
Conference? Yeah, Sound Faith Conference.
Yeah, that's the last one. But yeah, there was someone going around, and he was doing little clips for like Instagram or something like that. And he said, since Mike, he asked me if Mike Winger's name is Winger, what would he be with wings? And I was about to say a maxi pad, right? And but I didn't. I did because I was like, no, that'd be messed up. Okay, it's the same thing with the Kenny Bomer, and he says, "Do you believe Muhammad split the moon?" And the first thing that pops in my head is, "I believe he split Aisha's moon." I'm like, no, that may be inappropriate. I don't know. So anyway, I didn't say it, and I said, "An evil flying snail."
Yeah.
And, so
You see, Vice Rhino, he does this to everyone. You're not being singled out. He insults everyone, especially Than, because Than is a gay loser.
He hasn't insulted me.
Well, then he doesn't like you.
Fair enough. I don't blame him.
No, he's called you a Canadian.
Has he?
Yeah. He's making fun of your accent a while back. I remember that. Hindu as a religion is a Western Christian invention. That is true. It's more of a little different than, what Christianity would be as a religion. I've been working on an argument against materialism. Once I spruce it up, would you be willing to scan it? Is there a place I could send it to? Big fan. Send it to Michael at inspiringphilosophy.com. If I get time, I will try to go through it. One of them does have good facial hair and looks like an actor from The Chosen. So I asked if he's auditioning to Paul or something.
Hey, go ahead. The lowest ranking Muslim keeps spamming the same stupid comment over and over again. Just pull it up real quick. Yeah.
If the Torah says God's laws are eternal.
You truly, it's funny. I want to say you truly are the lowest ranking Muslim, but this is the same kind of stupid arguments we get from the highest ranking Muslim. So if the Torah says God's laws are eternal, what does he say? This is to be for a lasting ordinance or something like that. What is that? Let's see. What is that?
Yeah, which
Leviticus
one?
16.
Yeah.
Leviticus 16.
I can pull it up. I'm willing to bet it's
Oh, here you go. And it shall be a statute with you forever that in the 7th month, right? On the 10th day of the month, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna find a book here. Hold on. I already know what the problem is. Oh, here it is. First of all, for one thing, time and process in ancient Judaism, he points out that the word for forever, is there word forever in that verse?
no.
Eternal?
In the English Standard, if you go like NIV and it says, and it shall be that's also the same one.
Oh no, I found it. Sorry. Yeah, it uses all olam.
Yeah, olam. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Olam.
Yeah, so anyway, NIV says this shall be a lasting ordinance for you. So, but go ahead. Right.
Olam, as he points out in this book here, Time and Process in Ancient Judaism, does not mean forever. It actually means permanent as long as the covenant is in effect.
And so this is why you'd be the lowest ranking Muslim. You don't understand. The Bible contains a number of covenants. There's different covenants with different groups. You have the Mosaic covenant with the children of Israel, right? But even in the Old Testament, you're told that a new covenant is coming. You're told that a new covenant is coming. And what does Jesus say when he arrives? That he's there and he's establishing the new covenant in his blood. As for Jesus fulfilling the law, Jesus fulfilled the law in the way he fulfilled prophecy, right? You guys read that with an Islamic bent, which doesn't even make sense of everything else Jesus said. And then, oh, shocker, Paul says we're no longer under the law.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
Yeah, the thing. Also, John 18. Or John 19? What does John say? Jesus said these words to fulfill the scriptures, so it has been fulfilled. And Romans 3 says that by our faith in Jesus is how we uphold the law. Jesus has upheld the law perfectly. He fulfilled it, so he kept it perfectly. And then our faith in him is how we uphold it. So we are not under the law in that sense. And then we have to keep it because Jesus kept it perfectly for us. So you got to read Romans in context. You're not reading Romans in context.
He's not reading any of this. He's not reading any of this in context, right? So look, this guy just reads Leviticus and says, "Oh, this shall be lasting up forever. Therefore, this is supposed to be forever." Okay, do you? Quick question, lowest ranking Muslim: if you actually interpret this forever, and it's for everyone, do you follow everything in the Torah?
Uh-oh.
No, you don't. You giant cloud of a hypocrite. If you interpret, guys, think how stupid this guy. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but Dude, you need to hear at some point how stupid you're being. You're spamming the same thing over and over again. If you interpret the Torah, these claims in the Torah, as binding for everyone who believes in the Torah, believes in God or anything else, and then you interpret Jesus' words in Matthew as meaning that that he came to fulfill all of this and it's permanent, you've just condemned yourself to hell. And you don't, this is why I'm speaking harshly here. You don't realize what a complete lunatic you are. You're just, look, this is the law forever. And Jesus says it's forever. Okay, you following it? No. Are you insane? Are you this stupid? How do you not get this? And don't be like, oh, we think it's been corrupted. Why would you be quoting it then? And Islamic dilemma, your God affirms the inspiration, preservation, authority of the Torah. Your God and your prophet affirm the inspiration, preservation, authority of the gospel. And so your God and your prophet would put their stamp of approval on Leviticus and Matthew. And if that's your interpretation of Leviticus and Matthew, you've just condemned yourself. Fortunately for us, that's not our interpretation of Leviticus or of Matthew.
Yeah.
So we're not in this bind. You're the one who, according to your own words, is now going to hell.
And again,
you don't get it.
Again, it's pretty simple. Jesus is the fulfillment of Israel. He represents Israel. He fulfills the law perfectly. He then upholds it, keeps it perfectly, so that he then stands before the Father, having kept it perfectly, and then he is able to take all that he has taken, all that are grafted into him, that are part of his body, as being seen as keeping the law perfectly. And that's why Paul can say, Romans 3, the way we uphold the law is through faith in him, and therefore we're no longer under it in that sense because of this. You got to read in context, bro.
Yeah, and you reject what our explanations. So all you're stuck with is you interpret the Torah to say one thing, Jesus to say that it's permanent, and you're not following it. And therefore, do the math, buddy. And what's crazy is you don't even care. That's the shocking part, right? That's what the Torah says, and it's exactly what it means, and I affirm that is what it means, and I affirm that this is what Jesus means, and you can't interpret it any other way. All right, you following it? No. You just condemn yourself to, and you don't care. I guarantee if you read his comments, he doesn't care even slightly. There's going to be no, oh crap, I didn't think about that. Darn, I just condemned myself to hell.
Right.
It's weird.
Muslim. Mary was 12 according to the Catholics. Me. The Catholics, the same Catholics that believe Mary was a perpetual virgin her entire life. Muslims seem to be the masters of not thinking. Well said. Well said.
Exhibit A is lowest ranking Muslim there.
Very powerful. Very powerful. For my fuzzy little Than Peach. Why do you get these weird followers you brought?
Go by Thanos, man. Go by Thanos.
Yeah, why are you not Thanos?
I can fix it on during the stream. Yeah.
What does this even say? David Wood ask IP if he wears the brown scapula of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Also, you left AP by himself on his live stream. He was just tearing up the Quran.
What? He's doing what? Oh, come on. I got to go over there and rescue him again. The other day, I click on AP and he's calling that nun. What did he say?
He said
a demonic mustache whore or something like that. I had to jump in there. Dude, calm down. Fortunately, apologized later. But now he's over there doing the unspeakable.
Unspeakable. All right. Well, we got through all the super chats, so we're gonna close this out.
Man.
I'm gonna try to be live this week with Sygart, talk about his new book. If anybody is interested in that. But yeah, let's end this. And Ben, Vice Rhino wants to come on and talk instead of doing endless back and forth stream videos. You know, let's just do it that way. I think that'd be much easier. So, all right, we'll see you guys later. Appreciate everyone coming. And I'll check out those videos you guys told me to watch. You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.